Glenn Clark Radio, talking about the sports you do and don't know, both within and surrounding Baltimore. Don't ask him about preseason games, oh no, stuff and things in Griffin Basso. Despite it being on the internet, he can call it what he wants, so Glenn Clark Radio, Glenn Clark Radio, Glenn Clark Radio. Duke sucks.
Well, and good morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. Over there you see Griffin and Alex. Alexander, that is. That's going to be weird for me trying to go back to that. Got a lot to do on the program today. Obviously, our focus continues to be on the direction of the Orioles this week. Tim Kurkjian is going to join us this hour. Later on, we'll catch up with Chelsea Janes, the Washington Post, get their thoughts on what's next for the Birds. Also coming up this morning, I didn't know what I was getting into. S.L. Price, a longtime sports writer who's done just about everything, sports writer and author, S.L. Price, who wrote at Sports Illustrated for a decade and a half. 2 decades, something like that. I mean, he wrote SI for a long time. He's got a new book out, and the release of the book was timed. It corresponds with this being Lacrosse Championship weekend, and the book is called The American Game, and I'm not quite a third of the way through, and I've already read over 150 pages. I mean, it is a heavy, heavy read, but incredibly fascinating. So it dives in, obviously, to the history of the game, the creators' game, and the history of the Haudenosaunee, and tells the history of the sport through some of its warts. And I look forward to chatting with S.L. Price a little bit later on in the program about this particular topic. So that's coming up a little bit later on today. Today's show is brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. I have been telling you for a couple of weeks that I was admittedly trepidatious myself about, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I want to talk about? We reach a certain age. And it's funny because I say certain age and I typically refer to the 40s, but I've been reminded that younger men deal with, issues in the bedroom. They deal with ED. But it's not just ED. Like some of us would say, we're good in that department. But there's other things about getting into your 40s that just kind of don't make you feel like a man. And just the way you feel when you wake up. I started peptide treatment this week from Game Day Men's Health in Owings Mills. And I remember having a conversation with the doctor. I said, hey, what's the first thing I might notice? And she told me it's different for everybody. And I have discovered the first thing that I've noticed. When I woke up this morning, I'm 4 days into peptide treatment. And I would tell you that I woke up this morning, I didn't have the I woke up and I was just like, I guess I can just get out of bed then. Now, I don't know if it'll be like that forever, but it was kind of pleasant. Not everything was sore. Not everything felt like hell. I was like, this is great. So it's little things like that. It's just feeling like you can't build up strength. It's all those things that come along with the aging process. And they're trying to help you reclaim your game at Game Day Men's Health. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com in order to set an appointment. You can also give them a call at Game Day Men's Health in Owings Mills, 443-264-4454. And whether you're looking to burn fat, you got some weight loss issues that just aren't the same as when you were younger, where you're terrified that you might be low T, whether you do have performance issues in the bedroom, whatever it is, give them a call, 443-264-4454, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. The Orioles did win a baseball game. Hey!
I forgot the victory cigars. That's
yes,
that's
we
I
could have gone for that.
guess on me.
They tried a couple of times to lose it.
Yeah, but they didn't. So.
They went ahead. They went ahead late in the game, which, first of all, we don't even see that very frequently. And then Felix Bautista, they say, all right, the hell with it. I know we said we weren't pitching him in back-to-back games, but he's looked so good the last couple of times that.
Yeah, Mansolino said it was part of the progression.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it was time for back-to-back day.
Might be time for him to look like Felix Bautista again.
Okay.
What the hell's been going on there? So he coughs up a lead. The Orioles get a run back in the top of the 10th, and you're like, all right, I know you start the inning with a runner on second base, but all you got to do is get out of it. Finally, in the 11th inning, first Jackson Holiday and then Adley Rutschman beleaguered. It has been a very, very, very difficult season for Adley Rutschman. He comes through with a big 3-run home run, and the Orioles miraculously do indeed win a baseball game and shake that 8-game losing funk that they had been mired in. Now, you say to yourself, Glenn, I assume that means Adley Rutschman is man of the match. No. It's not. Man of the match to me was easy. Tomo Sagano has an argument for being man of the match. Tomo Sagano was outstanding and delivered a quality start. But ultimately, in what it took to win the game, the offense was more of the story, and the guy who led the charge offensively was the guy that went 4 for 6. And the guy that delivered throughout the course of the game, the guy that was, back home. The answer for who was man of the match was simple. It was Ryan O'Hearn. And for the season that Ryan O'Hearn is having, I get it, they don't win many games, so that's part of the problem. I was a little surprised that Ryan O'Hearn hadn't been on the board yet.
I thought Mansolino put it I think best in the press. He was like, I didn't even realize he had 4 hits. You just look up, it just felt like
I did.
It just felt like
I was kind of surprised it was only 4, to be honest.
I mean, I was surprised he had 4 hits. I was like, oh my god, I didn't realize he was 4 for 6.
No, I definitely realized it was 4 hits.
You're better
I thought
than
it might
me,
have been 6. It just seemed like every time he came up, he was doing something productive.
But this is to the point that's just what you expect from Ryan O'Hearn. I feel like that's what I was trying to paint the picture for.
He's been one of the few reliable, regularly delivering players on this team, and so Ryan O'Hearn indeed goes up on the board, and the Orioles do get out of Milwaukee with a victory. What does it mean? Not a lot.
It means we're back.
No.
What do you mean no?
Doesn't mean that at all. It took damn near miracle for them to win a baseball game.
Well, that was the good tweet I saw yesterday. It was like, everyone's been saying, just don't give these Orioles 11 innings.
Yeah, right? Then they'll figure it out. Yeah. Nobody. Does it make me think that suddenly something is changing? Not at all. Not even a little bit. Bad teams win baseball games too. Believe it or not, no baseball team loses all of their games.
Yeah, the Rockies kind of.
I know they've threatened. I understand. It means nothing until it becomes something. At some point, maybe it does become something. At some point, it's possible that we'll look up and like, hey man, did you notice they've won 8 of their last 10? But do you think that's likely?
Or 15 of their last 15,
Yeah. Do you think that's likely?
No,
I don't. I don't think it's likely.
Not until it's not. Not until it doesn't happen.
Sure. God bless.
Faith.
Go ahead.
There you go.
I got faith.
Oh, thank you, Alex.
Okay.
The guy that's not actually even
Walking
a fan.
What do you mean? He's wearing an Orioles
I know,
jersey.
he's got his Jackson
My guy
Holiday
Jackson
jersey on
Holiday.
today. Look at that.
If he's not a fan, then he fooled me.
Looking good. They won a game. it's better than losing 9 straight, I guess. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. They're starting Cade Povich tonight if they can play. I guess in Boston it's raining too.
Cade was pretty good last time out. So
sure.
Pitched well enough for them to win.
They're starting Cade Povich tonight and Charlie Morton on Friday.
So they got to win tonight.
Well, Charlie Morton's actually been decent. I don't know. I got nothing. I don't think they're a very good baseball team, and I don't think this changes anything, and I don't think it's a baseball game. God bless. It could have been much, 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 much worse.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to play tonight.
Yeah, that's what everybody was saying.
Just
apparently
100% rain all day.
It's not going to be like
windy,
it's not
freezing.
If you're headed down to the beach this weekend, bummer. Like real bummer, man. I hope you enjoy playing putt-putt or.
I don't even know they can play tomorrow on it. Well, they should be able to get it in tomorrow.
And I don't know when do they go to Boston again?
Let's see here. When do we go to? What the heck? We have a 2-game set at Boston in August.
Is there an
off day? And there's an off day on the Wednesday. What? Why is this in the schedule? Is this because of today? They knew this day was going to happen.
I don't know, man. I don't know if my point being, I don't know if they're be more inclined to try to play a doubleheader this weekend or move it to then. Like,
the problem is if they do move it to that Wednesday, then they're playing it looks like almost 30 games.
Teams don't like giving up off days, so they might be more inclined to try to play a doubleheader at some point this weekend. We will find out. I don't know off the top of my head. Let's see. Maybe the weather's wrong, and they're gonna be able to play this weekend. That would be great. I was looking that on Sunday it's supposed to get up to 77. On Monday it's supposed to get up to 79. But it's not supposed to be warm this weekend. It's not supposed to be get in the pool weather.
In Boston, in the high is 62 on Sunday.
Yeah, that sounds miserable. It's certainly not supposed to be go to the beach weather this weekend. Like, if you want to go to the actual beach, that
Memorial Day, yeah.
Yeah, it's none of that. Now, that can change in a heartbeat. I was texting with the friends that we normally get together with for Memorial Day, and they have the pool. And she's like, I just don't know. And I'm like, my idiot kids... They'll be like, we want to get in anyway.
Yeah, you swim in the rain. It's the best. That's the best.
Well, it's not supposed to rain around here most of the week. It's just supposed to be unseasonably cool. Like, it's just supposed to be in the 70s.
It was cold yesterday.
Yesterday it was cold. And today it was. I woke up this morning. I'm like, God damn it, we're doing quarter zips again? What the hell happened around here? So everybody knows once the weather becomes one thing, that's what the weather is for me. So tomorrow, if it was 90 degrees, I'd be wearing a quarter zip again. I dress for the weather that was yesterday. That's the way that it works. But yeah, we'll see if they play tonight in Boston or how many games they get in this weekend up there where it's not supposed to be nice. Orioles win a baseball game. Hoorah. We have that. We have that. And Andrew Kittredge came in.
Yeah.
Andrew Kittredge came in and looked the part, and you know what? Maybe that's proof.
Yeah.
That's all the Orioles needed.
Maybe Andrew Kittredge
if they had only had a healthy Andrew Kittredge all this season, everything would have been different.
He brings 15 straight wins with him.
Yeah, you were dismissive of it, but that was the proof right there. Andrew Kittredge, undefeated as a Baltimore Oriole.
Is he the best Oriole of all time? Is that what they're saying?
Think about that. The streets are saying that. The streets are saying he might be the greatest Oriole of all time. Just think about that a little bit more. Think about it. All right, so there's that. What else was there? The basketball game last night. Holy crap.
That was pretty good.
Holy hell, man. I don't have the words. The nice part about not even being remotely distracted is I don't usually watch basketball games straight through. Typically, you flip over after the Orioles game is over. Last night, I watched the entirety of the basketball game. And the funny thing is we're going to talk about it as one of the greatest games ever, but I don't even know that we would have felt that way at certain points. There was no – defense was optional. It's wild watching the Western Conference Finals and then watching the Eastern Conference Finals. And by the way, it also makes me – I have no idea. For as much as we've declared the Thunder to be the favorites, like I don't know if you're going into the NBA Finals, the team that's more inclined to play offensive ball versus the team that's more inclined to play defensive ball, I'm not sure which one I'd rather be. But we'll deal with that when we get there. There was no defense for forever, and at no point did it really the game was still close for much of it.
Well, were you going to defend Aaron Nesmith?
Yeah, well, we'll get there. But that's not even the story. For most of the game, it was something like the Knicks were ahead by 5 to 8 points. And while it was never a runaway, they did get it up to double figures in the fourth quarter, but it was never a runaway. But
that's just where the Pacers like it.
Right, exactly right. They never felt, well, to be fair, that's typically the Knicks are more comfortable in those situations too. I think that might be part of the problem. It never really felt like the Knicks were in jeopardy. It just sort of felt like they had them at arm's length. Like, we got enough distance that we're going to be okay. And obviously when it got to a minute left and they were up by 9, you genuinely had the feeling of like, all right, it was an entertaining game 1, but it wasn't exactly a thrilling game 1. Right up until, to your point, Neesmith, obviously, and then the shot that it seemed like was going to be the winner for Tyrese Halliburton at the buzzer. A question was posed to me by, let me figure out who it was. It was Dan. Dan said, Glenn, why does it seem like this has been happening so much in the NBA playoffs? I know you haven't been watching every game.
Well, you don't know that.
Dan, very presumptuous.
This courtesy clip courtesy of TNT, by the way.
I know you haven't been watching every game, but it feels like we've had about 6 of these late, dramatic, double-digit turnarounds in the last minute or 2 of games. I typically don't remember seeing this in the NBA. And to some extent, I agree. Like, I don't really remember seeing this either. You see this typically more often in college basketball, because in college basketball, you're more likely to get bad mistakes, brutal turnovers, and missed free throws. When you get into these situations, right, when you're down by 9 with a minute left, the equalizer in the NBA is like everybody can make threes. Like everybody can. I mean, these aren't even good shots. The last 3 that Neesmith hit last night, it defies logic. He's just sort of like pushing the ball in towards the basket. You can't explain. It wasn't a good shooting form. It wasn't a good look. It was just he was open, like he had lost the defender, but the form was terrible. And yet it goes. Everybody in the NBA can make threes. So that's the equalizer. But the difference is typically you don't see what happened to the Knicks, which is where they missed 2 free throws down the stretch. In the NBA, the other thing that's different, this isn't the era of big men who can't shoot free throws, and even those types, like Steven Adams, wouldn't be on the floor in a spot like that. You have guys on the floor that make free throws. So seeing them miss 2 free throws, which is what it required an amount of conspiracy for this to happen, that is not usual in the NBA. Also, the turnovers. The one that originally was called a foul, but then they reviewed last night. The one where Jalen Brunson lost the ball going up because I don't remember who it was. Yeah. Who was called for the foul? I don't remember.
Siakam?
I think it might have been Siakam. You're right.
Yeah.
Who was originally called for the foul and then on review. And I didn't know that they were going to overturn it on review, but I do think it was the right call for what it's worth. The contact on the ball was clean, and that's what got the ball out. The contact on the arm afterwards, I do think that was the right call. You never know. Like in baseball, they're just like, it's close, so sorry, we're not going to overturn it.
Well, and Obi Toppin, like, powering through that the one where he did get fouled and they didn't call it.
Oh, yeah.
And Obi Toppin was...
But it requires those types of things. It requires... And that's not normal. You don't usually see turnovers.
Teams don't melt down.
The Knicks tried to turn the ball over a couple more times in the final minute. Like, it's kind of a miracle they even got to overtime because they kept trying to turn the ball over. Like, what's his face slipping? And then the ball nearly getting thrown away. The losing the ball in the corner when they were trying to go the length of the court. It requires that type of stuff, and you just usually don't see that as much in the NBA. The only time you see it is in the playoffs. You never see it in the regular season because these teams don't think the games are important enough to sell out to win them like that. You rarely even see fouling. The way that in a college basketball game, you'll start to see a team foul with like a minute and 20 seconds left. The only time in an NBA regular season game you'll see a team do it is with like 20 seconds left. If they happen to be down 1. then they'll foul to get one more shot. But if they're down by 5, it's like, we're not going to foul. We lost the game. We'll try again tomorrow night. There's too many games for us to pretend like this one is the one that matters. So I think because of things like that, we grow accustomed to not seeing it in the NBA, and that's why it's so surprising when you get a night like last night and you see something like this. All that being said, give the Pacers just an insane amount of credit, man. Like, they fought like hell. Like, just absolute crazy. Give them all of the credit in the world for battling back to get the job done. Incredibly entertaining game 1 in the East, and we'll see how the Knicks recover from it. Because the first thing you want to say is, like, give me 7 games just like that. And then the flip side, the question is, what does that do? How demoralizing is that to the Knicks? And are they able to get back up off the floor for it and be ready to go for game 2? But unbelievable basketball game last night. Obviously, the Orioles continue to be the topic du jour here in our city. The future, what are they going to do? Who's going to be the manager? Are they committed to Mike Elias? All of those things. And we continue to get opinions of people that are much smarter than myself. Joining us now, of course, longtime friend of ours, friend of everyone's here in town. Of course, see him on ESPN. He is our buddy Tim Kurkjian, and he is back with us now here on GCR. Tim, it's Glenn. It's always good to catch up, sir. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Well, my pleasure, Glenn.
Tim, I guess I'd just start with, what was your reaction over the weekend when the Orioles fired Brandon Hyde? I was very much I don't think this is his fault, but I think this is how baseball works. What was your thought process?
Yeah, I agree. He did not deserve to be fired. However, when you are in a spot that the Orioles are in, sometimes just a change of scenery, a different voice, it's just a giant cliche, but it's mostly true that sometimes you just got to shake it up and see where it goes. But to blame Brandon Hyde for a team that has been this injured, pitched this poorly, scored as few runs as they have scored, it's just not right. But really good managers get fired all the time.
Constantly.
And now the question is, where do they go from here? But I was mildly surprised by it, and but nothing more than that.
So I before we get to where they go managerial-wise, obviously the spotlight has sort of shifted over towards the front office and how this all came about, that this was the team that was put together, Tim. And I'm in a strange place because for a few years I had gone along with, I think Mike Elias is doing a pretty good job. When I sat down with David Rubenstein this offseason, he said, hey, look, I have every reason to trust Mike Elias. I understood exactly what he was saying and why he felt like he should defer to the guy that was, one of the best executives in baseball for a minute. But what do you make of how this does happen? Because it is perplexing. I use the word incongruent all offseason, but I think it's something more than that. It's almost nonsensical how a team that had success and put the foundation together suddenly decided, yeah, we're not really going to try to upgrade it whatsoever. What do you make of where they are, and is it a reflection of Mike Elias?
Well, Mike Elias has overall done a pretty good job there to go from 100 losses to 100 wins in 3 years. Second team ever to do that is pretty darned impressive. However, they're in a spot now, and the general manager, who has acknowledged this is on my shoulders first, my responsibility first, I believe that is correct. Not enough moves were made in the offseason, and the signings that were made, those haven't worked out very well. Some of the trades in the last couple of years haven't worked out very well either. This is the beauty of baseball and the unpredictable nature of it. But yes, this is Mike Elias's job now to get this turned around and get it turned around quickly. And I am still just a little surprised he didn't address this immediately as the general manager of the team. When the manager is fired, the general manager has to be the first guy there in front of the media, in front of a microphone, in front of a camera. And you have to do it for the media and for the organization, but you have to do it for the fans also. And you have to explain to people why Brandon Hyde was fired. It was a little disappointing that that didn't happen, But now it's Mike Elias' job to turn this around and turn it around quickly.
Let me follow up on two things. Tim Kurkjian with us here on GCR. Number one, just what you just said, because I completely agree with you, but I think the second part that a few people have brought up is, should David Rubenstein have done the same? And we recognize that David Rubenstein has a lot of fish to fry, right? Like he is, he's traveling to World Economic Forums, things along those lines. But should he also have made himself available at some point this week after the firing of a manager?
I don't think that's the owner's job anymore. It used to be, but no longer. I mean, owners have disappeared for the most part. I mean, when I first started covering the late 70s, early 80s, owners were around all the time, and they spoke for the team. But the big job is now the general manager, and he is the spokesman for the entire organization. He speaks for the minor leagues, the big leagues, for ownership, for everyone. And that's why it's so important for the general manager to get out in front of things. So would it have been nice if the owner had stepped in and said, I need to say a few things? Yes, I think that would have been a good thing. Is it imperative now? I just don't think it works that way in today's baseball.
Tim, the other follow-up would be, and I assume I know your answer based on what you just said, but the opinion of many is that perhaps now the job of taking good core and winning a World Series isn't the correct job for Mike Elias, that he's the teardown guy, he's the draft guy, and that might need to be someone else that comes in and takes the next step towards delivering a championship. I kind of feel more like it's going to be Mike Elias, to your point, but it needs to be Mike Elias with more checks on him, both from the manager and from ownership, that there needs to be more of a, hey, we're not just going to defer to you. This is going to have to be more collaborative and all of us working together. What say you about Mike Elias's future in Baltimore?
Well, if you're asking should he be removed from his job, I don't think he should. And I'm never really confident saying, oh, this guy needs to go. But now we have to see what Mike Elias is going to do. What manager is he going to name full-time, and when is he going to do that? And more important, what's he going to do with this roster? Look, I don't see them making the playoffs, being 16 under and been outscored by, 84 runs, 13 games out already.
Yeah, it's hard to see that.
It's hard to see that, but there is still a really good core of players here. So I think he has to add from here, but he has to add in order to get back to a serious contender next year, meaning you don't just go high, you just don't trade for somebody who's at the end of a contract who's going to help you get to 500 this year and still not make the playoffs. You have to go get somebody, several people perhaps, who is going to help you win next year. And that is an enormous challenge to find that guy or those guys when the competition out there is going to be pretty fierce as we get closer to the trade deadline.
Tim, I bring up the idea of checks, right? And I don't know this definitively, but I have enough reason to believe that it has not been as collaborative as Mike Elias would want you to believe between he and the on-field management. That when Mike Elias a couple weeks ago almost ironically said, no, I don't set the lineups, and then immediately in the sentence that followed explain exactly how essentially the front office was setting all of the information that meant that was how they were setting the lineups. I just wonder if the next manager has to be someone with success, with cachet, that's in more of a place to say, I understand that this is baseball in 2025, that like data matters, that analytics is not a boogeyman. We're not going to pretend like it's a problem, but we're going to have a little bit more room to make some more traditional baseball decisions. And for me to maybe say, no, my gut tells me this is the guy with the hot hand, I'm going with him even if the data doesn't always say so.
Yeah, well, that's the way it has to work in every organization, in my mind. It has to be a 50-50 split between the eyes and ears of our manager, coaches, instructors, scouts, and all the data that you get, which is an enormous amount. If you go too far one way or another, it probably isn't going to work out. And Glenn, you're right. The the relationship between the manager and the general manager is absolutely critical, especially now. I mean, it used to be when I used to cover the Orioles, it was Tom Giordano, it was Hank Peters, and it was Earl Weaver. They ran the team. It was 3 guys. Now we have 40 guys who are running the team. The point is, when Chris Young hired Bruce Bochy to manage the Rangers a couple of years ago, he told him, we will give you all the help you need with advanced metrics and everything else. But in the end, we're going to trust you to make out the lineup, and you're going to manage the team, and you're going to manage the game. To me, that's still the best way it has to work. And the best way to do that, obviously, is to maybe hire a manager. We'll see how it goes the rest of the year, but hire a manager who's got some experience, Skip Schumacher, David Ross, Joe Girardi, who knows who's out there these days. But I'm a big believer that experience in the big league dugout really matters. I'm in the minority on this, but I really believe that there's an art to managing, and guys who've done it before have a bit of a leg up.
Let me touch on both. Tim Kurkjian with us here on GCR. You bring up what's going to happen the rest of the year. I would tell you that in the first couple of days of watching this, and yes, they did win a baseball game yesterday, so they've got that going for them, which is nice. I've started to wonder if you can't wait till the end of the year. Like that, Tim, it's a very long ways away, and this has looked so rudderless at times. And again, he hit a home run yesterday, and I hope that's a wake-up moment. But in particular, it's been so bad for Adley Rutschman. I've just wondered if you need to get that leadership in place a little bit quicker, because this ship needs to be righted, particularly with the young position players.
Yeah, I mean, Adley Rutschman hit a home run yesterday that broke 25 games without a home run, which just doesn't follow. And some of the other slumps on this team and all the pitching issues, they're all fairly obvious. They need to be corrected. And we got to give Tony Mansolino a chance to see what he can do here. 3-4 games just isn't enough. But at some point, you might recognize, all right, we need a veteran guy. We need a guy who's managed in the big leagues before. We need a complete outsider to come in and take a completely different view. I think that at least has to be considered for the rest of the season.
Of the names that you brought up, I feel like Schumacher is the one that keeps coming up with people I talk to around the game of being, this is the fit. This is the guy that you're looking for in this moment if you're the Orioles. Is that the one that makes the most sense to you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, he won the Manager of the Year with the Marlins. He did a terrific job there.
To be fair, Brandon Hyde did too.
Right. He left under adverse circumstances, none of it brought on by him, by the way. And I'm surprised he's not managing in the big leagues right now. But he's a really good manager. He understands the players. He was a good major league player in his day. So yes, he would be the best outsider. But again, you got to if you're going to name an interim manager, you got to at least give him a chance, see how it goes. And if it doesn't, you have to make another really difficult decision.
So I brought Tim. I would think, given the amount of young talent that's in this organization, this would be a desirable job for someone like that. My friend Will Leach, of course, who's now with MLB and has that new novel out that's outstanding. He suggested that maybe the perceived interference of the front office might not make it such a desirable job. Where would you be with those sort of two factors? Young talent versus the opinion of Mike Elias. Is this a job that someone like Skip Schumacher, who to your point I would think would have had opportunities, would say, yeah, that's somewhere where I would want to be. I'll come off the beach for that.
I would think this is a desirable job for sure. And I'm just not sure how much interference there is from the front office. But if there is interference, then that needs to be examined. I repeat, Bruce Bochy, Tito Francona, when they went back to manage again, it's because, in essence, they were told, you are going to manage the team. So let's say it's Skip Schumacher is approached. He would have to say, look, I need to do it my way. And if he doesn't get a satisfactory answer, then maybe it's not as desirable a job. But it's the Orioles. They have still a really nice base of young players. The fans are great. It's a tremendous ballpark, tremendous history in the franchise. I think a lot of people would like to manage the Orioles.
Tim, is this just this? Does this just happen? Like, I feel like this is part of the problem that we're having here in Baltimore. Is that, like, how do you go from the team that, to your point, won 100 games to, where you were last June, where you were, arguably the best team in baseball, to being a sub-500 team for the rest of last year, limping your way out of the playoffs, and being among the worst teams in baseball this year? Is this normal? Is this as dramatic as I think some fans might fear that it is, that perhaps you don't get back up for this for a little while, and you're losing time on the control that you have on some of these young players that we're talking about?
This is a bit unusual, but Glenn, this is baseball. It's the most unpredictable game in the world. Teams get really good and then go really bad, and vice versa, all the time, and sometimes without explanation. But there are a million examples of teams that you think, oh, this team is done, and then suddenly they almost win the division. Remember, I covered the 88 Orioles, or the 89 Orioles almost went to the playoffs. Strange things happen. So I refuse to count the Orioles out for 2026 with the base they have. But now, obviously, the challenge is they got to get some people healthy, and then they got to bring in the right people to contend next year. Because in a winnable American League, Tigers are really good right now, but there are no dominant teams in the American League right now. The Orioles still can look at next year and say, we can win a bunch of games next year if we fill in the holes that they have right now.
And just to reiterate what you had said earlier, your suggestion is, because I think the obvious thing is going to be, if you're not bringing Zach Eflin back, if you're not bringing Cedric Mullins back, like, those guys get dealt at the deadline. But your point is that you should be looking to go both ways at the deadline, and also acquiring perhaps pitchers that have control so that you can start stacking the deck for a competitive 2026 team.
Yes, you can't give up on 2026 with the talent level on this team. You have to build for next year, I think, and there's a way to do that, but it's not going to be easy when you look at the roster and say, all right, what do we do now? We've got free agents at the end of the year. Are they a part of the future, a big part of the future? This is where GMs earn all their money right now, trade deadline, even though it's a 3 months away. This is when they earn all their money. Are we in? Are we out? How are we going to do this? And that's why this will be an enormous 2.5 months for the Orioles.
Tim Kurkjian, you want to plug the podcast?
Yeah, is this a great game or what? My son Jeff and I do this 3 days a week. Every Wednesday is our interview section. We had Cal Jr. and Jim Palmer and all sorts of people on last year. We had Jim DeShays on yesterday. Boy, he made us laugh out loud about 20 times. We laugh and we learn on this. No heavy lifting, no screaming, no controversy, no hot takes. We just have a really good time talking about the game that we love. That's it.
GreatGameOrWhat.com is where you can find, and of course, Kurkjian_ESPN is where you find him. Tim, always appreciate you, sir. Thanks for spending time with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Tim Kurkjian from ESPN with us here on GCR. I'm in a weird place, right, where I would kind of say something similar to what I said about Brandon Hyde 4 weeks ago, which is, do I think the Orioles should fire Mike Elias? No. I don't feel that way. I didn't think they should fire Brandon Hyde. But if, in getting together and saying, hey, this is not going to be the same way, if David Rubenstein and Mike Arrighetti and company sat down with Mike Elias and said, all right, here's where we've screwed up. We've given you too much leeway. We've shifted all of the power towards you, and moving forward, it's not going to be like that. We appreciate your Pythagorean models. We appreciate your evaluations. But I think it was Buster who brought up the idea of, but you're gonna present to us. Here's what I think a player is worth, and then we're gonna tell you we're gonna go sign that player for a greater dollar amount. It might very well be that Mike Elias says, "No, I'm good. Either I run the organization, or I'm not interested." And if that's the case, and the Orioles turn around and say, I think they should say, then you're not going to run the organization anymore. If it has been unchecked power, and unchecked might be unfair, but largely unchecked, I think is fair based on what I've gathered. If it has been largely unchecked power, then I think that has to change. And if Mike Elias isn't willing to change that, then it can't be Mike Elias. So that's where I am. Do I think Mike Elias should be fired? Not necessarily. Do I think that the entire power structure of the Baltimore Orioles needs to change? Yeah. And if he can work with that and cede more power to the on-field manager and cede less power or cede...
I know what you mean.
I'm trying to find... I'm not saying this eloquently.
A better balance of...
Yes, if it, on both ways.
We need more checks and balances.
Both top and... God, I got to come up with... I need to write these things down or something, man. This doesn't play well in a TikTok video, and Alex is cutting more of those. You really want it to be succinct. If he can make this work more collaboratively, absolutely, it can be Mike Elias. Somebody retweeted something that Tim Kurkjian said and pointed out, well, look at all these picks that Mike Elias is about to have. That does nothing for me. Telling me about how good Mike Elias has done, how well Mike Elias is drafted, which, by the way, even that I still think is kind of I don't think we're ready to write off Gunnar Henderson. Yeah, he hasn't been Gunnar Henderson to start the season, but I think we absolutely believe that.
Riding high on how strong 2019 was.
You just mean from a draft perspective?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess are we all out on Adley now?
I don't know that we're out on Adley, but I think we're at a place where, there's no question at the moment that it doesn't look like it was the right pick. But that being said, does that mean that he can't become Adley Rutschman again? I don't know. The idea being, if what you're saying is, well, you definitely need to have Mike Elias, because look at all these picks. Some at Orioles fans say on Twitter, pointed out that they're slated to have 3 first-round picks this year, 4 picks in the top 60, 6 picks in the top 100, and then potentially a very high pick next year, reminding that the Rockies, Nationals, and Angels all can't get a top 9 pick.
Certainly seems relevant.
So all that sounds good, one, if you accept that Mike Elias is particularly good at drafting. Is he?
Maybe, probably.
I don't know, right? I'm not sure. I think he's pretty good at drafting. I think. How are we feeling about Heston Kjerstad right now?
Would you want him to take a pitcher next time around, or would that
Well, at some point
scare you more?
This is where it gets complicated.
Yeah.
Because even if we said we think Mike Elias is great at drafting, the follow-up to that would be that you don't need guys 3 years from now. You need it now. The draft picks aren't helping you. Free agency and trades is what you need to work right now. And that's where we'd say we have no faith in Mike Elias, which would be slightly unfair. Like the Corbin Burns trade, as you saw, Joe Ortiz is not lighting the world on fire in Milwaukee. DL Hall is not suddenly turned into a revelation. The Corbin Burns trade looks like it worked out, even if it was only for 1 year. It was a good year. And the price that you paid doesn't appear to have been notable. But the bigger point being that, those are fewer and further between. The drafting and free agency, for the most part, has been a mess. You don't need to reset the timeline. That's the terrifying thought, is that you're resetting your timeline, and it's not going to be this core group of guys. It's going to be the group of guys that win you a championship. It's going to be the group of guys that you draft with all these high picks in the next couple of years. That's terrifying. On the flip side, to your point, is this the year that they finally say, come hell or high water, we have to find college pitchers that could be helpful to us in the next 2 years. We don't have a choice. And you're not going to get Paul Skeens drafting where they're drafting in this year's draft.
There is no Paul Skeens either.
Obviously, yeah. Paul Skeens is a unicorn. I understand that. But beyond that, that you just say, we got to find the best college arm that we could find because our timeline is right now. And we just got to find somebody that can get here quicker to help us. So having a bunch of high draft picks does not make me say, well, this is definitively why you can't move on from Mike Elias. I'm not saying you need to move on from Mike Elias. I'm saying this has got to be more complete. There have to be more checks on Mike Elias. Somebody has to say the backup plan for Corbin Burns cannot be Charlie Morton. You got to do better. And the manager's got to have way more autonomy to say, appreciate everything you're giving us, but sometimes I'm going to ignore it. Which doesn't mean that the manager should be given free reign to say, I hate analytics. Analytics stinks. You guys are ruining the game, because that's also stupid. There's got to be somewhere in between those two things. Come back in. Yes.
Should I order my Rentaro Sasaki jersey now?
Is that who the?
I think so. Yeah, he's the kid at Stanford, and might be Ohtani-esque. Not that he pitches, but like from the plate, he is Ohtani.
Okay.
I want Rentaro Sasaki.
But where's he going to go in the draft?
Hopefully early, I guess, if that's where the Orioles are going to be.
But the Orioles this year aren't going to have that high of a pick.
No, he's going next year. Sasaki's going
next
next year. Yeah, 2026. 2026.
All right. When we come back in, Chelsea Janes from the Washington Post is going to join us in a minute. I also do want to spend a minute talking about a figure that passed away yesterday. Jim Irsay passed away, and obviously there's a lot of mixed feelings in the city of Baltimore about that. We're going to talk about it when we come back in. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from driveeasymd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at driveeasymd.com.
Baltimore's Classic 5 golf courses make golf fun and affordable. All 5 local courses, Pine Ridge, Mount Pleasant, Forest Park, Carroll Park, and Clifton Park, are challenging and fun for players of all skill levels. Book your tee time today at classic5golf.com.
Discover luxury without limits at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. This April, unlock a world of high-fashion delights and exclusive style. Earn entries daily starting April 1st and join our drawing on Friday, April 25th. 19 will win up to $2,000 in cash and free play. And one grand prize winner will take home a curated Versace homeware collection. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Feeling sluggish, unfocused, or not like yourself? It could be low testosterone. At Game Day Men's Health, we specialize in testosterone replacement therapy to help men boost energy, improve mood, and regain confidence. Our treatments, including testosterone cypionate, are safe, natural, and tailored to fit your lifestyle with weekly injections or pellet therapy. Get started today with a free testosterone test and feel the difference. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Game Day Men's Health, where men reclaim their game.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the long road back from Tommy John surgery for Orioles closer Felix Bautista, as well as Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells. Also inside, we learn more about new Maryland basketball coach Buzz Williams from the players who have played for him at other stops. Plus, evaluators around baseball chime in on Orioles' top prospect Samuel Basayo. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com. where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
Every Monday, Stan the Fan Charles, former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley, and Luke Jackson get together to discuss the latest related to the Birds. If you missed this week's show, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video in order to find it, and they'll be back in action this coming Monday. I don't want to belabor this conversation. You, of course, know that Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, passed away yesterday. You almost certainly are, whenever you hear the name Irsay, feel conflicting feelings if you're from here. Certainly if you're a certain age. I don't know how young people feel about it. A lot of times we'll say things like we shouldn't criticize the son for the sins of the father. And there's probably an element of truth. Jim Irsay was a very complicated man who seemed to have a lot of demons. There's been a lot of praise heaped upon Jim Irsay for some of these philanthropic things that he did as the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, and I have no doubt that's true. I think a lot of people around here weren't sure how to feel. What also is true is that Jim Irsay never attempted to reconcile any of the crimes of his father. And while at some point the idea of giving up the colors, that was lost. Either that was going to happen immediately when the team moved, or quickly thereafter, or it was never going to happen. For what it's worth, the Colts at this point now have 4+ decades more history in Indianapolis than they had in Baltimore. The colors, the name, that was over. That fight had been fought, and you weren't winning it. But the records, that's the part where it was still, I'm not going to shake. I can have sympathy for the family of Jim Irsay, and I do. 65 is entirely too young. Unbelievably too young. I am very sorry for the family of Jim Irsay. But it's okay to have complicated feelings about Jim Irsay and to not feel comfortable with all the praise that's heaped towards him. Jim Irsay has had every opportunity to step in and do the right thing and say, Lenny Moore has nothing to do with Indianapolis. John Unitas had nothing to do with Indianapolis. Why are we continuing to hold hostage this history that has nothing to do with this place? And I've had this conversation with different people connected to Indianapolis over the years, and the fact that so many of them default to, well, remember, it wasn't Baltimore's team, it was Mr. Irsay's family's team, comes off very much like they were peddling a talking point. That there's no critical thought put to that whatsoever. As I've said a million times, I would like nothing more than for the Orioles to be able to completely relinquish the history of the St. Louis Browns. I don't want it. It has nothing to do. This seems trite, right? But it's very frustrating whenever you're like playing daily walk-off or something like that, and you're dealing with, I don't know who this person was because they were a St. Louis Brown. That has nothing to do with the history of the Baltimore Orioles. Just because that was the franchise that moved here, I don't want their history. It should exist in St. Louis. I don't know if I don't know who's still alive, and from 1953, the last time the St. Louis Browns existed. So I'm not sure if there are still people that are concerned about it, but if they want it, they should have it. And that, to me, has been the biggest fault of the Irsay family, is an unwillingness to recognize how much it hurt not just the people of our city, but the parties involved. John Unitas to his death. Art Donovan to his death. Raymond Berry was really the only former Colt that ever was willing to embrace the franchise post-move. It hurt these men, these legends of this sport, that their history, their records were taken away from their city. And they still constantly rub it in. We're going to wear these throwback Baltimore Colts jerseys. Why? What does that have to do with you? Again, if I was in Indianapolis, it's like when the Tennessee Titans, if the Tennessee Titans want to continue to wear the Houston Oilers stuff, I hope they never win another game. It's gross. It's perverse. You're twisting the knife. Remember that thing that your parents loved? Ha, they don't get to have it anymore. We have it. We stole it. Now you got to watch us celebrate in it. It's gross. And we hide behind it. Well, he is the owner of the team. Be an adult. Say, this isn't right. And so if you still have complicated feelings towards the Irsay family, but even if you were able to separate, hey, Jim Irsay didn't move the team. I know that. He wasn't the belligerent drunk that lied at every turn. Well, not in 1983. I'm not going to speak to anything past that. If you have complicated feelings, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you wish harm or that you celebrate the man's death. That's awful. That's gross beyond gross. But to say I'm not comfortable with the way that everybody's coming out and heaping lavish praise upon him because he's still been gross to our city, I understand. I do. And it's always easier to say nothing. And at first, that was my intent, was maybe I just say nothing. But, that's not how this works. We have a microphone. We do a show. We talk about these things. Jim Irsay failed colossally in how he treated. He had the opportunity to say, we've screwed this up. And I've said before, I don't know. Seeing the recent direction of the Baltimore Ravens, I would almost worry that they would purposely ask to not inherit the history and records of the Baltimore Colts. In the early years, they did a wonderful job of celebrating the history and trying to make it seem like the Ravens were a continuation of professional Baltimore football history. I don't know where they are with that. Again, the further you get away from it, the more people involved that have no DNA related to Baltimore that are making decisions. I don't know how the organization would respond if the Indianapolis Colts were to say, hey, we want to right this wrong. Would you all, if we worked with the NFL, would you be interested in inheriting the history and the records of the Baltimore Colts? I don't know what the Ravens would say. I have no idea. But I know that it's not right that the Indianapolis Colts continued to shove it in our faces. And in the faces of the great men who didn't make, life-altering money playing for their franchise. They didn't deserve that. And so it is going to be complicated. It's not Jim Irsay's fault that the Baltimore Colts moved. It's a shame he never stepped up and said, for as many times as he did kind of acknowledge some of the errors of his father, it's a shame he never stepped up and attempted to right that particular part of it and instead signed off on continuing to spit in the faces of those that found it distasteful. There is no doubt that Jim Irsay did wonderful things. And there is no doubt that 65 is far too young to pass. But it's okay to have complicated feelings. Come back in and talk to Chelsea Janes next. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. This August, the PGA Tour's best are coming to Maryland. The 2025 BMW Championship tees off August 12th through 17th at Caves Valley Golf Club in Owings Mills. See the top 50 players battle it out in the penultimate event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Don't miss your chance to witness world-class golf, fan experiences, and unforgettable moments. Tickets are on sale now at bmwchampionship.com. The BMW Championship, where legends take the lead.
Discover luxury without limits at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. This April, unlock a world of high-fashion delights and exclusive style. Earn entries daily starting April 1st and join our drawing on Friday, April 25th. 19 will win up to $2,000 in cash and free play. And one grand prize winner will take home a curated Versace homeware collection. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an easy pass from driveeasymd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your EasyPass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your EasyPass account. Learn more at driveeasymd.com.
What makes the Costas Inn so special? This is Stan the Fan telling you that it's the people that work for you, cooking and serving. But that menu is also special with a capital S. Soups, salads, the raw bar, pasta dishes, seafood specialties, and entrees like the Costas combos, steaks, chops, ribs, amazingly delicious meatloaf, and all manner of delicious filling sandwiches including pit beef and turkey and subs. Of course, the steamed crabs are as good as you can get anywhere, and they serve them 12 months a year. The crab cakes are out of this world. Costas is open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner at 4100 North Point Boulevard, and coming soon, very soon, Costas in Timonium at the OTB Parlor at Timonium Racecourse. We'll get you the opening date real soon.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Want to improve your golf game or learn to play for the first time? The Baltimore Golf Academy has fun, instructional programs for the beginner golfer to everyday players. The Baltimore Golf Academy can take your game to the next level. Enroll today at baltimoregolfacademy.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCRs. Continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. Her column at the Washington Post, the Orioles need something to change. Will a new manager be enough? And addresses some of the questions that we've been asking all throughout the course of the week. Joining us now here on GCR, she is Washington Post MLB writer Chelsea Janes. Chelsea, it's Glenn. It's always good to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking the time for us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Chelsea, I feel like this is the weird place that I'm in where I don't think that it was Brandon Hyde's fault that the Orioles have been as bad as they've been this season. Or you know, even if it's not even singularly his fault, I don't even know if that he was the biggest slice of the pie. I do think this is how baseball works, and so I wasn't surprised that they moved on. But the spotlight has to go to Mike Elias. And I am struggling with the line between, do I believe that Mike Elias is the right man to fix this problem when I think that he is the one that created the problem?
Right. I think that is sort of the tough part now. You know, I think Brandon Hyde was always the first line of defense for Elias in this. I think for years now it seemed like if something went wrong like it has, you know, Hyde would be the one they look to first, and then, you know, Elias would kind of come next, and that's how it's played out. But it's really tough to know, you know, where they go from here. I have a really hard time thinking they're going to, you know, Rubenstein's going to suddenly decide this isn't, you know, the right guy to lead them, but I also think the clock is now ticking. But I think he's going to get a chance to pull them out of it, and we'll see if he's learned anything. I mean, I think there's reason to believe he hasn't, you know, but, you know, it's pretty clear that he made some mistakes. He owns that. He said it publicly. And now the question is, can his mindset change because of it?
Well, and to the point, I could sense that it was something that you were bothered. I think a lot of us were bothered by the fact that it took as long as it did for Mike Elias to say something. I didn't love the fact that he did it in Milwaukee, where there was only a small group of reporters that were able to make the trip, and that limited how many people were able to ask questions. Like, I do think it's fair to criticize, and I still have questions about the fact that David Rubenstein hasn't taken a question. This is an era where we can do. If you're in Davos, like, we can do this. We have Zoom. Like, you don't have to physically be in the place in order to be able to answer questions about these things.
100%. And I think the Mike Elias thing is, it's, from an outside perspective, we as reporters obviously think that they should talk to us, and that is something we hold them to. I'm not always sure fans care. I think the reason people should care in this case is that they fired a manager, threw a guy into the fire who probably didn't know it was coming, didn't expect it, and had 4 hours to prepare for a game, sent him out there to answer for it, and pulled guys in tears off the field, players, to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
But Mike Elias' schedule was too hectic.
Right.
It's just, I don't care. As a reporter, like, that makes my job harder, but you do what you want. But there's players who are going to notice that. I mean, it's a bad look. It's bad leadership. And I think that one of the issues this group has had is they've needed an adult in the room the whole time. And, in any room, I mean, in the clubhouse, in the front office, and there's been no one to say, hey, you got to wear this now. You got to show these guys how to wear this when it doesn't go well. And he has just kind of failed spectacularly at that. And I don't know why. I think he's a smart person. And I think sometimes this group just doesn't understand the people impact, and I think it has really come back to bite them.
No, it's really reminiscent of 2022 around the deadline, where he's saying, well, we can't win. And the players are like, wait, what? Like, what are you and then he has got to fly down to Houston to be like, hey, sorry, I screwed that up a little bit. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, and there wasn't a big meeting, from what I hear and what he said. It wasn't like there was a big rah-rah message in the clubhouse when he fired Hyde. It's just like, here's the new guy, good luck. And I think, again, it doesn't mean he's bad at his job, but it means there's a blind spot there that is, I think, huge with a young team that needs someone to say, no, we're fine. You're fine. I'll take the heat off you.
Mm-hmm.
You go do your thing, and he just hasn't done that.
Chelsea Janes, Washington Post, with us here on GCR. Chelsea, I have come around to my, I think, official take on Mike Elias is I think he can do this if, moving forward, there are more checks in place. If the front office says, or the ownership says, we deferred to you a little bit too much. And to be fair, like the conversation I had with David Rubenstein before the season, I understand why they did that, right? Like, we're still new to this. This guy's been successful. I think most people would have said that was a smart thing to do when they took over last year. But it can't be as unchecked as it's been, and I think that it might need to be the same with the manager, whoever that ends up being, that it's someone that has a little bit more power to say, hey, we're going to use the data you give us, but there's going to be a little bit more control from the dugout, and if Mike Elias is good with that, if he can understand it won't be as unchecked, then I'm for it. If Mike Elias says, no, I've got to run all aspects of this, then I don't know that Mike Elias can be the guy for the Orioles moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where my curiosity is with the manager approach is, I think they could really benefit from someone with a big resume and kind of a hard-nosed personality who's going to tell them how to do this. I just don't know that Mike Elias and company want to be told how to do anything,
right.
And so I'm, and I think that is a problem. I think there could be a balance there, and maybe they know that, I don't know. The thing that is like really kind of fascinating about this is it's been 2 months, it's not like it's been a debacle for long. It's just happened very fast and in ways that everyone saw coming. So I think the immediate pendulum swing on Mike Elias, while totally justified, I can see why someone like David Rubenstein sits there and says, let's wait this out. Let's give him a chance to dig out of this. Let's let him, navigate this season, and then we'll draw conclusions. Because frankly, the bad sample has not been as big as the good sample. But it's been so bad
right.
that it really makes you wonder, what he was thinking. And I don't know if they need more checks. I think one thing that will probably start happening is that Rubenstein will be in a bigger force in big free agent negotiations. We've heard Mike Elias say that we don't want to, waste money on the back end of these big deals. And that's what he's been telling Rubenstein. And, let's be careful, let's not overpay. Well, I think sometimes you have to overpay. So I think that agents are going to start going to the owner and saying, here's why you need to overpay. And maybe that solves the problem, by taking it out of the hands of someone who's a little more cautious. But I think the dynamics will change because of this. But I don't think that means that Mike Elias won't be here to ride this out.
It's so two layers of what you just said, Chelsea, that are interesting. One being I think we know that Mike Elias is a Pythagorean model type, right? Like we have done all of the math. This is what the value of the player is, and we're not going to go beyond the value of that player. And in like a salary cap sport, that might actually work, right? Like I think that's what people praise the Baltimore Ravens for, is how good they are at that method. But this isn't the salary cap sport, and you could be 1,000% correct that it's not worth spending this dollar amount on a baseball player, and yet the alternative is you don't have baseball players. Like you don't get there's no parade for didn't give away bad money in contracts.
Right. No, 100%. Andrew Friedman with the Dodgers has that famous line of, I'm paraphrasing, but if you, don't want to overpay for any free agents, you're going to finish second on every free agent. You've got to overpay, and I remember the day the Nationals signed Patrick Corbin back in the day, and they win an extra year, and you knew that extra year was going to be terrible, but they knew it was going to be terrible, but they also knew they had to do it to get the first 2 years, and they won a World Series. And I think you just have to be able to take those risks. And I think you also have to evaluate the market better than they've done. Everyone I've talked to has said there was 0% chance Corbin Burns was staying, no matter what they gave him, because he wanted to go home to Arizona. He was flying home to Arizona all last year to see his, newborn twins. Like, he needed to be closer. So you can't go into the offseason and say, no, we tried for this guy, because, there was no shot. It doesn't matter how hard you try. You have to come up with a plan B. You have to be willing to reach somewhere else. And I just, I would hope that they've now learned that lesson. It's hard to imagine that they haven't. But I do anticipate you're just going to see a lot more agents going around him, and maybe that will make the difference.
That is interesting. That is interesting. And again, how does he handle that, right? Because I do think that's going to be abnormal. We'll see how that goes. You bring up the profile of the manager, and I think you and I agree wholeheartedly about this topic. I know that everybody always says, hey, you just got to hire the right manager, whatever the experience is. I do think that this probably requires it being someone, and I know how much Skip Schumacher's name has come up, but I do think that it requires someone who has some cachet, who will walk in carrying a little bit bigger of a stick to say, I'm not telling you don't matter, but I'm telling you that I do matter in this process.
Yes. Yes. I think Skip Schumacher, is well respected for a reason. He's a really kind of sturdy person. I think if they threw as much money as they wanted at him and got him, no one would be disappointed. I also think that somebody with a long resume who's done this a few times and been fired a few times and been through the wars a little bit is probably what these guys need. I don't know who that is.
I'll ask Chelsea, is it a Buck Showalter reunion?
The number of people who've brought that up and said, bring him in for the rest of the year and see what happens. I mean, it makes sense. You kind of know there's going to be a short life there, that everyone's going to get sick of each other soon, but the window is closing. So you got to get these guys figured out. I mean, I haven't heard that from anyone who makes decisions, but it makes sense to me. Does a Joe Madden make sense? Kind of awkward because Hyde was on his staff, but maybe Joe Madden's got a little too much ego to play in the same, sandbox as Elias, but the resume's there, people would listen, a Joe Girardi. I don't know. These are names that have come to my mind and seem a little too old school for what the Orioles have been doing, but they just need somebody to come in there and say, no, you got to talk, because I'm not going to wear this for you. Or, hey man, we need a guy, a culture guy. You can't look at these numbers and let that guy walk, because he matters more than numbers. So they just need a person, a people person, I think. And it'll be interesting to see what they decide they need.
Well, and Chelsea, to your point about it hasn't been bad for very long, I do think you also refer to something there that makes it particularly concerning, which is you are getting closer to the first place where the control part of this conversation comes into the equation, right? And you're not getting there with Jackson Holiday, right? You're still a ways away from that. But I don't think anybody has any idea how to feel about Adley Rutschman at the moment. And then it's, Gunnar after that. I feel like that part of it is what makes this so much more difficult, which is it feels like a wasted year when you may only have so many years with this core group of players because they weren't aggressive early on to try to extend any of them. And again, it might end up being that they feel really smart about that if this is who Adley Rutschman is. But all of that is why I wonder if you have to get someone in place. Ideally, you want to wait till the end of the season so you have a larger pool of candidates. And you can look at everyone that could be your manager. But every day that goes by, and I know Adley Rutschman hit a home run yesterday, and maybe that's a wake-up moment. I don't know. But it feels like every day that goes by that the ship isn't being righted, it's more and more problematic. It seems to me like you might need to go ahead and make a hire soon in order to try to get an adult in the room.
Totally. And it sounded, I wasn't there, but just from listening to Mike Elias, that he kind of feels like you don't make big moves like that in season. I think they should. But, I also would say, this has been a horrible start to the season. It's pretty close to lost, but the American League is pretty weak. And there's time. There's time. So it's, if they punt now, I don't think they will. I mean, I think they have to kind of hope that these guys come alive. And one of the things, too, that I think is true is the complete underperformance of that lineup at some point just makes no sense. And when that happens in baseball, and you can't figure out an underlying reason, it probably means it's going to get better. It's, they just have to be better.
Right.
There's no, yeah. So, I think that is coming regardless of who's there. But, yeah, I agree. I think there needs to be some urgency. I don't think they can give up on this year. And I think, what I think to your point, is it too late to do this the way they probably should have done it, which is to not build around these guys, but not build only on them. I think they needed people to show them how to win. It's a lot to ask these guys to carry this team. I mean, Bryce Harper coming up with the Nets, he never had to carry that team. There were veterans in the room. There were people around. The Astros were a unique bunch. Those guys kind of came up knowing how to win, but you don't get that with everyone. So I think they needed to support the young guys more. And I don't know if it's too late to kind of build that infrastructure around them, but time is ticking.
Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com, at Chelsea_Janes is how you follow her. Chelsea, is there anything else we can plug for you?
No, that's plenty. Probably too much.
No. We appreciate you taking the time as always, and look forward to doing this again real soon. Thank you so much for spending time with us, Chelsea.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Chelsea Janes, the Washington Post, national Major League Baseball writer for the Post. Appreciate her spending the time with us this morning. All right, we have a minute. Do you want to do this?
Yeah, I would like to do this.
Remember how we were just talking to Alexander the Great about being prepared and being ready and all those,
what am I not prepared for?
Well, it's a Thursday, so
yeah,
we're padding now.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's not the way that it's supposed to work.
It's Fighting Words with Griffin Bass.
Fighting Words is brought to you by Sports and Social and Live Casino and Hotel. The place to go to watch all of the fights is inside Sports and Social, because if you'd like, what do they charge for pay-per-views now? I mean, it's
too much.
But what is the number?
I believe it's like 85 or 90.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. It's way too much.
Why are you paying that number?
Who said I'm paying it?
Well, don't just admit to stealing pay-per-views, Griffin.
Stealing?
I know, I get it. You go to Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel, and that's how you watch the fights. I understand that. Why would anyone pay that number when you can hang out inside Sports and Social, where the vibes are immaculate, the food is delicious? What did you have on Saturday? What did you enjoy?
Oh, I had those. They're like little burger, or they're called like burrilla queso egg roll things.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah,
they look good.
They were very good.
Yeah, they look good.
There's a little like dipping sauce that comes with it.
I have a problem.
I know you have a problem. You eat the same thing.
You're
addicted almost.
I criticize my wife for this all the time. I'm like, why didn't you order something else? Their Southwest bowl is so good that I order it every time. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just so good. On Saturday, I was like, maybe I'll get some wings. And I was like, no. I know what I like. I'm having that. Why would you watch the fights anywhere else? Sports and Social inside Live Casino and Hotel is the place to watch the fights for free. Spend that money instead on delicious food. Maybe win a couple of bets while you're there. And don't forget, June 7th, Poker Day. We'll be telling you more about that next week. What you got?
So it's a pretty slow week, so this will be a shorter version of Fighting Words. To everyone's chagrin, I'm sorry.
I know.
Alex, jump in whenever if you got something.
Alex wanted to steal this segment away from me.
Yeah.
So as everyone knows, when
you're
you're an intern here at GCR, you're supposed to be responsible for a segment. So we've been working on that with Alexander the Great this week. And
I really wanted MMA.
And his was like, well, dude, I'm really into MMA, so I could just do Fighting Words. And I was like, Griffin will actually fight you.
That'd be a good segment.
Like,
Should we have
me and Griffin?
We host our first ever sanctioned MMA bout.
Do you think me and Griffin could beat Ronda Rousey?
No, I don't. With all
so.
due respect, I do not.
So.
I don't know. I mean, has she still been training?
I mean, that's a good.
But
question.
you haven't. Why am I? You haven't been training. Alex,
you don't know what I've been up to.
Do you train?
No, not in MMA.
Because our buddy, our former intern Charles actually did
train
at ground control.
Yeah.
So like,
I met a guy from there. Met him out Rofo.
So maybe was it
no,
John?
I did not mess with him.
Did you meet John?
No, I met a guy named Will Breslin.
I don't know Will, but if you met John, I know that much. But yeah, he maybe because he trains, maybe would have a shot, maybe. Without training, you two, no chance.
Yeah,
I mean, Charles would survive. That's what.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I don't think we'd survive.
And I'm still saying maybe. All right, what you got? Come on. We're doing a segment here.
So I mean, again, it was there's really no big boxing card this week. There's no UFC card this week. But let's see. I just kind of piggybacking off of the discussion we were having. Like Renato Moicano was on Helwani this week, and he was kind of echoing the same sentiments that I was trying to articulate last week, and how the UFC is it's strictly entertainment now, and it's all about the star power.
Now.
Yeah.
Ben.
Now. You just come out of a 5-year-long coma?
No.
5 years, 7 years, 7 or 8 year long coma.
I mean, what do you want me to? Anyway, he was talking about Islam and him moving up instead of fighting Topuria, and he didn't like that. That's the way it was going. I mean, I was gonna play his comments. I don't know
if you've got them. You're the one doing the segment.
Well, I mean, I can tell you're not into it. So I'm trying to.
You're the one that's not selling it well. You're like, yeah, there's nothing really to talk about. This is not a great. Maybe we should give it to Alexander the Great.
I'll take it.
Here's Renato Moicano on
First of all, you haven't explained to anybody who this is.
He's a
Money
fighter.
Moicano?
Yeah, Money Moicano. Dude.
No, stop.
He fought Islam in January. He's the guy. So remember, you're not gonna remember, but so Islam.
I certainly am not.
Islam fought in January, and he was supposed to fight Arman Sarukian, and then he came up with an injury or something.
Staff.
There you go, Staff.
He's trying to weasel right in. Oh, he's trying to cut your knees out.
Like what? A day before the fight here.
2 or 3.
This guy. All right.
Yeah. So Money Moicano stepped in and to fight for the belt on essentially 2 days. I mean, he was scheduled to fight on that card, so he was in a training camp. But he stepped up to fight the number 1 pound for pound guy, Islam Makhachev, and he promptly got did he get knocked out, I think, in the second round?
He got handled pretty well. I can't remember how it finished.
Yeah, he got finished.
All right, now we're going maybe a little bit too far. You set up who the person
is. But anyway,
is.
we love Money Moicano. He's the guy who jumps on the mic and he says...
Afraid of nothing.
Yeah, he jumps on the mic and he says, I'm the effing man. And he says my dad just had another kid, and he's the guy that he keeps dropping F-bombs on the mic, and he's electric on the mic.
Okay.
And he has great call outs. He says I'm coming for the belt.
Somehow gone from nothing to all. There's got to be an in between of describing who the person is without telling me literally everything there is to know about the person.
He wanted to become a cop,
just setting up a clip,
so he could protect the world, protect the U.S. of.
You've never seen this post-fight interview?
I think I
have. But the point is
Glenn doesn't like
no,
UFC.
he's trying to.
Yeah,
no, stop. He's trying to. This is about broadcasting now. You're trying to set up a clip. All I'm telling you is you have to tell the people who it is that is in this clip. You don't have to give the entire biography.
He stepped up on short notice and fought for the title 4 months.
Great, got it. Nailed it. Now.
This was him on Helwani earlier this week.
Take Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley lost arguably all rounds for Merab Dvalishvili, and he's fighting Dvalishvili next. You know why? I think because he sells, because UFC sees potential in him of selling tickets, and I think it's the same in every division.
Okay.
So if they don't put Tsarukyan, that means that he doesn't sell that much. I think it's that. People still think UFC is a sport, but UFC is entertainment, you know. They want to sell tickets. They want people watching. They want people talking, and you just need to put fighters that the fans are behind, you know.
Yeah, so that's more or less what that's what he was putting out there, and so he's talking about the upcoming pay-per-view. Sean O'Malley is fighting against Merab Dvalishvili, and he's more or less saying that he doesn't think Sean O'Malley really deserves that title shot, but he is fighting for it because Sean O'Malley is the he's a guy that more people that people will know about. He's one of the more popular guys in MMA right now. And that was a good point. And he also talked about John Jones, and he thinks the UFC should force John Jones.
Well, so is the word? There was a video going around this week where apparently John Jones alluded to the idea that he had retired.
Correct. That is true.
I don't know anything about who he was talking. I saw the video because Luke Thomas shared it.
It feels like he does this every other week, honestly.
Where he was talking to a former fighter, maybe a fighter that he had defeated at some point on a FaceTime, and they said, "And you're still going?" And John Jones said something like, "No, I'm done. I'm done." And everybody was like, well, "Did he actually just announce that he was retired? Is that what happened here?"
He said, "I don't know if I want to call it." This is a reply.
No, this is not what I'm. There was a video of John Jones talking to. Hang on a second. I'll do your segment
Anthony
for you.
Scalise,
Don't worry. You know what? I'm starting to think maybe next week we let somebody else have a shot at it.
Have him take over right now.
Might let him have a shot at it, given how this one's going. It's annoying.
Anyway, John Jones is, again, the problem is the UFC can't cut bait with John Jones. They have to. They're at his will.
One of the three people that anybody has ever heard of.
And this is the point that Renato made. He said, there's no Ronda Rousey anymore. There's no Conor McGregor anymore. They have John Jones, and who is the most popular UFC fighter now, outside of John Jones?
Is he?
What?
Izzy is what I'm saying. Not is he.
What do you mean?
Israel Adesanya.
Oh, sure. I mean, there you go.
Are you familiar with?
You said is he?
I said Izzy.
Okay, I hear you now. Thank you for.
I heard Izzy.
After I fight Alex, I'll fight you.
I don't know what happened here. I've got this for you. I've done your work. I'm sending it to you. God, and you can explain it. I don't know who these people are. This was Godziev. Kamil Godziev mentioned that they fought 10 years ago, and he was amazed that John is still active. And here, do you have it?
No, my Twitter's not working.
Awesome. Hey, Alexander.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad.
But
I'll tell you, today is not the day. If you want to learn how a segment goes, today is not the day.
Well, this is big pressure.
So he should be fighting Tom Aspinall, and he's not because he's John Jones. He just doesn't want to. It's a big risk because Tom Aspinall is very good. He's in the prime of his career. John Jones is pushing 40 now. But if he wants to remain in the UFC,
why wouldn't he just say no? I'm retired, right? Why wouldn't he just do that?
I guess because he can still get a big payday. I don't know. I don't know what there's still a legacy thing that I guess he probably cares about. I'm not sure how much more he can add to his legacy.
But he's not legally undefeated, correct? Because he lost the one fight by
no contest. Yeah, I guess DQ. But
yeah, but so he's not protecting an undefeated record.
Technically, no. Yeah, no.
So I don't. Whatever.
To your point, I was, Israel Adesanya. That's who you're saying is the most popular UFC fighter.
And I really was asking.
Sean O'Malley, maybe Alex Pereira. None of these guys are champions, though.
No.
So yeah, that's the problem. The UFC has no star power right now, and that's why
they're also
at the will of John Jones.
And they're only mildly. They're popular within fight fan circles.
Yeah. No one's done what Conor's done in a long time.
None of them have mainstream credentials the way that Conor McGregor and John Jones and Ronda Rousey did.
Yep.
And they really don't even have even a Quentin Jackson.
Yeah.
There was an era where being an MMA or UFC star was enough to have you translate a little bit. The Chuck Liddells, Frank Mir to a lesser extent, Randy Couture, guys like that, just by being a star in those early years of UFC, it was enough for you to translate a little bit into mainstream attention. Now the UFC has gone so far down the route of we're for the niche. We're for this group of people that even being an actual star within the sport isn't enough to make you a sports star, because it's become all or nothing. Either you're part of the circle, or there's no moderate interest in the UFC.
Correct.
You're either in or not.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, yes. That's it. You pretty much nailed it. That
so
was
I'm the host
point,
of.
That was.
Is
the
that what
point
this
that
is? I'm now the host of.
I'm glad you understand what I was trying to lay out. Thank you. Jose Aldo is officially retired. Like I was trying to argue that hopefully he wasn't, but yeah, he made it. Made it pretty official that a media tour this week. Michael Morales knocked out Gilbert Burns last week. That was in about 2 minutes, so that was fun while it lasted. He looks like a pretty scary dude at 170. All of a sudden, 170 looks like maybe the deepest division, especially with Islam moving up. And then not a whole lot boxing wise. Manny Pacquiao's back. That's the big thing. Oh, Michael Carter Williams is boxing now.
Why?
I don't know, because he wants to.
I mean, it's not. Was it Nate Robinson who did this, right?
Yes.
Like, so is he boxing or is he?
He's got his first amateur fight this weekend.
Okay.
Or sorry, next weekend.
God, Papa bless. That's all I can say about that. All right, that was fighting words. Fighting words is really the way that we describe the conversation that was involved in that segment. That's how we would do that. Let's switch gears this morning, as there's a really cool event. We are partners with the folks at Live Casino and Hotel, and I love everything about what Casey Cares does. So when I found out about this event, I was like, this is tremendous. Coming up on June 18th, the Casey Cares Foundation has announced a special fireside chat with Eric DeCosta. Perhaps you've heard of him, the Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Baltimore Ravens, at the Prime Rib at Live Casino and Hotel. And so now, joining us this morning, tell us a little bit more about that event and about what Casey Cares is all about. She is Casey Baynes. She's the founder and executive director of Casey Cares, and she's with us this morning here on GCR. Casey, it's Glenn. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having me, Glenn.
Casey, I feel like a lot of people are familiar. Casey Cares has become so ubiquitous throughout our region that I feel like a lot of people are familiar, have heard about Casey Cares, but never really bothered to ask, what is Casey Cares? How did this start? What do you guys do? So for that group of people, I was wondering if you could spend a minute or two telling us all about it.
It's crazy to think that we have been helping critically ill children for over 25 years now.
Awesome.
It all started when my background is in the logistics industry. My family has a trucking and warehousing company, a logistics company that has been a part of my family for 170 years. And I was always volunteering in the hospital. And this one day, 25 years ago, I was at University of Maryland and volunteering when I heard a little boy who wanted to meet a race car driver. You guys know, it wasn't, NASCAR was coming, a couple weeks. I was like, I have some sports connections. I can help this little guy figure this out. I made some calls, and before you knew it, the race car driver was walking into this little boy's hospital room with his jumpsuit on, the hood of his car. And at the time, I didn't know race car drivers are little, like jockeys. So the hood of his car looked ginormous. And there was so much excitement and joy. So as the volunteer, I kind of backed away to let the magic happen, as this little boy who was losing his battle with cancer was really having the moment of his lifetime with his family. And as I backed away, I heard a little voice on the other side of the curtain that divides the two hospital rooms say, I wish I had cancer. Maybe I would get cool stuff too.
Oh.
And it was with that I became obsessed with helping all critically ill children, because that little boy didn't want cancer. He wanted somebody to wrap their arms around him like we were this little guy who wanted to meet a race car driver and say, buddy, we got you. We're going to help you through this. And that's what Casey Cares has been doing for over 25 years, is not just helping cancer children, but helping children that have all kinds of health issues, frequent hospitalizations. Think about sickle cell. Think about transplants, anything that requires these kiddos to go in and out of the hospital to battle for their life. Casey Cares is there to help them, not once in a lifetime, not once a year, but continuously throughout their treatment and even after the loss of a child
That's
or the
wonderful.
child is in remission. And it's not just about that critically ill child. It's about taking care of the brothers, the sisters, the moms, the dads. Because when a child is diagnosed, the ripples of that diagnosis are felt throughout the entire family. And Casey Cares is there.
Casey, I noticed that this event with Eric DeCosta, there's also going to be appearance. You bring up the family by a mom of a Casey Cares kid.
Oh my gosh. And this isn't just any mom. It is Gina Truesdale. Her little boy Hammy was in our program. Hammy was actually awarded Under Armour's modeling contract of a lifetime. So he is a well-known in Maryland and with Under Armour, Hammy is. Unfortunately, Hammy lost his battle. But when he was in treatment, he was always craving food. I mean, seriously, we were actually out at Armor Day and he was like, I need ribs. And he's on stage with Michael Phelps. OAR was performing that day. And we're like, no, Hammy. No. Like, take this all in. You're here with like Michael Phelps. And he's like, I need ribs. Let's go. And off we went to get ribs.
That was what I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So now our Hammy's Heart program provides all of these brave kids and their families in our programs. When they get a craving, Casey Cares is on it. And we are sending them out to get the meal that, because they're on all these medicines that they're really craving. Because when your child's battling a critical illness, your pocketbook has been robbed. It's going to copays. It's not going to ice cream or special treats just to pick up your spirits.
Oh, it's wonderful. Casey Baynes is with us from Casey Cares. So let's talk a little bit more about this event, because I know there's limited tickets available for this event. It's a very intimate evening. What is this night all about? And if someone says, I'm going to step up, I know it's part about, being part of the event. It's also obviously about making a donation to what it is that you guys are doing.
You guys, this event is all about community. I mean, the Ravens have always been there from day one with Casey Cares. And so Eric is stepping up to really we only have 30 tickets left. 31 tickets left. It's a really intimate event. Eric's going to come give everybody the lay of the land, kind of give them the insight. I mean, everybody's very excited about our draft picks, and he's going to give the insight of how do you make those types of decisions and what he's hoping that the team is going to bring out on the field this year. So it'll be the start of training camp, and it'll be an opportunity to ask Eric some questions. Of course, it's going to be emceed by the one and only Mark Viviano, which will be a great pairing with Eric and Mark. It's going to be a memorable evening, all to help the brave children in our community.
You can go to caseycares.org, and then there's a link to the event. We're also going to link specifically to the event on our Twitter account, @GlennClarkRadio, for you to go if you want to purchase your tickets. And you're still looking for sponsors as well, Casey?
We have one sponsorship left.
Okay.
So yes, there's still the opportunity, but check it out. And we would love to have you there. You can learn about our programs, and you can learn about what's ahead for the Ravens this year.
Casey, I love everything about what it is that you guys are doing. I think it's wonderful. And not only for this event, but obviously if people can't make it out that night, I know there's about 1 million more that you guys are doing. They can check out.
Absolutely.
Yep, when they go.
It all matters. It's all about those little moments and lasting memories. You guys know it, whether you have a critically ill child or not. And can you believe it? With the community's help, we've helped over 500,000 critically ill children and their families.
Well, and what you say about the family is so important. Like my son, we spent 10 days in the hospital with him last summer. It wasn't critical. We were very fortunate, right? Like it was just, but the fear, what it does to a family, it's very hard to explain. And so I appreciate that aspect of what it is that you all do. Again, caseycares.org, @CaseyCares on Twitter if you want to find out more. Casey, is there anything else we can share about what's going on?
That's it. Everybody makes a difference. Your donation of your time, your talent, come together, volunteer, help us roll some PJs in the hospitals. We do those little things at home for the families when their immune system's depleted, or the big things like throwing out the first pitch or going down in the tunnel to high five the guys as they take the field. It really is about those little moments and lasting memories in life that make a difference.
Casey, thank you for everything that you and that your foundation does. Appreciate you spending a couple of minutes with us this morning. Would love to get more involved in the future. Thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Casey Baynes from Casey Cares with us here on GCR. And again, @Glenn Clark Radio, if you go right now, we have linked up that event with Eric DeCosta, which is coming up again at Live Casino and Hotel at the Prime Rib inside Live Casino and Hotel. It is on June 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. Go to caseycares.org for that fireside chat with Eric DeCosta and our buddy Mark Viviano, who, of course, we love as well. All right. High school sports. We are winding down for the academic year in high school athletics. We've already given out lacrosse championships. Calvert Hall just won the A Conference last Friday.
Those Manchester Valley girls.
Yeah? They're dominant, right?
Yeah, they were undefeated this season.
Absolutely.
2A state title last night.
They are a unit, that
They
group.
absolutely are.
But there's still more titles to be given out. And if you want to find out anything about the championships that have already been handed out or the schedule for the titles that are still to come, what you need to do is go to countysports.zone. It's proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Scores, schedules, updated brackets, everything you could possibly know about high school sports. You can find it countysports.zone. So I have to admit, I got the book 2 days ago, and I'm like 160 pages in, and I feel like I still haven't even made a dent in it just yet. Really looking forward to this conversation because, as you all know, I've become intertwined with lacrosse over the years. Of course, I'm the voice of the national team for USA Lacrosse and Loyola and Stevenson University, among others. And our next guest, who has had a long, lengthy career in sports writing and an author himself, he has a new book out this week that really dives into the history of the game and told through many of the warts of the sport of lacrosse. Joining us now here on GCR, the author of The American Game. He is S.L. Price, and he is with us now on the program. Scott, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning. We really appreciate it. Scott, can you hear me okay? See if we can't get that squared away. SL, if you could hit unmute, please, so we can. It still happens all the time. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And we'll be telling Scott's going to be appearing tonight, and we'll be giving you a little bit more of the details about this event here in a second. But if I could start, I am so fascinated. As I said, I have only scratched the surface, despite the fact that I have read nearly 200 pages of this book. Where did this start? Did it start when you were in Israel and it made you say, hey, or did you know before you went that you wanted to dive into a project that was this deep?
Well, I proposed the book and put it together before I went to Israel, and I sort of had the idea that I would build the book around the 2018 World Championships in Israel, but and at the time, as you know, the Iroquois Nationals, now the Haudenosaunee Nationals, were stuck at Toronto Airport and barely made it into Israel. So that was the one part of the book that back in 2018 I sort of knew I wanted to start with, but so many things changed in the course of the reporting of this book and the writing of it over the next 7 years. Especially sort of the push toward the Olympics in 2028 that really picked up steam, and as a result, the COVID, the George Floyd murder 5 years ago, so many things changed and came into play that the book obviously took on a completely wider dimension than I really expected. I didn't expect at the beginning to include the 2023 World Championships like I ended up doing, but so it definitely changed. But as a reporter, if your idea of the book, when you first talk to your editor about it, if you end up having a book that resembles that when you're done, I don't think you're really doing your job. The fact is I really dove into this. I'm not a lacrosse guy. The lacrosse community greeted me with open arms, incredible honesty, incredible willingness to take a look at both the good and the bad of the sport,
right,
as it drives toward the Olympics. And I did over 378 interviews for it, and
it was incredibly rewarding, and it really stamped into me the idea that this sport is far more important, I think, as a mirror of our country and our culture than I ever really understood before I started the process.
Scott, it's interesting because it sort of starts through the lens of the Haudenosaunee, and I wonder, was the original concept of the book to write uniquely about, because I do still feel like, and I worked the Women's World Championships for ESPN a couple years ago, and still the number of people that are like, what can you explain what the Haudenosaunee are to me? Because I don't fully understand it. And I found myself, as I'm trying to work for ESPN, I'm like, I don't know that I can define it. Did it start with the concept of trying to tell their story? Because what it felt like as I was reading was more like, hey, it's kind of also a reflection of other things that are going on within the game and some of the racial reckoning and things that you've been diving into. Did it start with that and then you just kind of go from there?
Well, I just felt like the sport is unique. Unlike, obviously baseball's supposedly the national pastime, and football is the most popular sport. These sports were imports from England, essentially. This one sport came out of the woods of the Northeast, created by the Native Americans 1,000 years ago. It's truly grew out of the roots of the continent in a way that no other sport has, and has been part of the conversation ever since. And the sport includes, in a way that no other sport does, the Native American experience and its clash with colonial white men coming in and taking over their land. So I really felt it was important. Look, there's obviously the collegiate game, which is the elite and absolute highest expression of the sport as everyone understands it. We can talk about the PLL all day, but this weekend is really Mount Everest of the sport every year. Everybody gets most excited about it. I didn't write about collegiate lacrosse extensively, at least encyclopedically. I wrote about it. I wrote about Duke. I wrote about Virginia. I wrote about Hopkins. But there's a lot left on the side, even after 500 pages. This is such a rich sport. I wanted to center the Haudenosaunee as sort of the through line, because I feel like they're the core of the sport, and frankly, they're the soul of the sport. And I think that it's to lacrosse's credit that 40 years ago, in 1987, they became the first international sport to recognize the Haudenosaunee, an indigenous people, as a sporting nation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unique. And for a sport that is often regarded as not as progressive as other sports, and conservative and upper class and white and all that, it's an incredible progressive move by the sport way back before anyone else was talking about this. And I really felt that was necessary. Their struggle to travel on their own passports, the Haudenosaunee insistence that they're a sovereign nation based on a treaty going back to 1794 with George Washington signing it, and which is honored every year to this day.
I was so compelled by the story of the cloth.
By $4,500 worth of muslin that is distributed every year from the United States to the Haudenosaunee people. And the United States at certain points have said, hey, can we just pay this off and finish off this treaty? And they're like, no. A treaty, by definition, is a pact between two nations. You are recognizing us as a nation, and we are going to insist that you pay us off every year, because that reinforces our idea of ourselves as a nation, as does traveling by passport. And the fact is that the tensions that have grown, even though the lacrosse let them in as a playing nation, it still created incredible tensions because the World Lacrosse's job is just to stage a tournament and figure out who and grow the game and figure out who a champion is. The Haudenosaunee purpose has been, we want to travel by our own passports and tell the world and that we are a people, and have that certified every time we get into a foreign country on our own passports. And that's created tensions because obviously they pulled out of the 2010 championships.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled out in 2015, a U19 women's champions, and they were about to pull out and not show up in Israel until a lot of outside forces came in and helped broker a deal at the extreme last minute. But I can tell you, I was in Israel and people were like, we can't run a championship this way. I mean, there was a game between the U.S. It was by far the most anticipated game in the first round, the U.S. and the Iroquois. And 5 hours before the Iroquois finally landed, there was a TV spot on ESPN waiting to be filled. It's naturally, there's a tension between the two. But with the Olympic drive, really after 2020, and there was a situation where the World Games, shut out the Haudenosaunee, and there was a great uproar. And ever since then, the sport, World Lacrosse and the Haudenosaunee, have worked together to try and get into the Olympics. That obviously is halfway achieved. The sport will be there in 2028. But whether or not the Haudenosaunee will be allowed to play and march into a stadium in Los Angeles on their own home soil, under their own flag, is still an open question.
SL Price, the book, and we'll link up the book on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio. It's The American Game, History and Hope in the Country of Lacrosse. It's fascinating to me, Scott, because as you start to tell the story, then you move into some of the racial reckoning and some of the things that you just alluded to, which are kind of the elitism that comes along with lacrosse. And I deal with this all of the time. When people ask me, outsiders, they say, like, I'll just never be able to get into it. It's only for a certain amount of people. And and there's this weird, there's this push within the sport, grow the game, right? But the question is, but really, are the actual people, that the organizers, I think, certainly want to grow the game, but do the actual people in lacrosse, do you really want to grow the game, or do you really want it to be just for you? This is our thing. This is what we do. And I struggle with that constantly when it comes to this sport.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no question that it's a well, when I first started, working on this, the sport was 92% white. Obviously, the cliche is true. I mean, obviously, there's an element of entitlement. There's certainly a prep school element. It's definitely a moneyed sport to begin with. But even in my time working on the book, that has dropped 10%. It's about 82% white at this point. The amount of African-American players are about 4%. That hasn't changed much, but there's been an influx of Asian and Latino American players. And I will say, if the sport was only that, if the Haudenosaunee weren't involved, and if other elements of it, exceptions to that, didn't exist, I wouldn't have spent that much time on this. The fact is that it's not that interesting a sport if it's only a white upper class sport, if it's only about itself. Instead, what's interesting to me is, for example, in the grow the game aspect of the game, over and over, the people who have stretched the boundaries of this game, Tom Hayes, the great Rutgers coach, international, pushing the international game way back in the day, and really the early sort of engine behind the Olympic growth, Bill Tierney. Tom Hayes was the son of a tool and die man on Long Island. Bill Tierney, the greatest American coach ever, goes out to Denver and stretches the game there. Bill Tierney was the son of a beer truck driver. Mm-hmm. Brian Holman, who took the game to Utah. His father left home and they were destitute as a child. He went to the Severn School, but he has no idea who paid for it and doesn't really know how he got in because they had zero money. Kelly Amati Hiller, who moved the game into Northwestern, came from zero money and was working on scholarships her entire life to private schools because of her athletic ability. When I did the Duke lacrosse case back in 2006, obviously there were a lot of prep school guys there, no question about it. A lot of them from Landon, nearby where I live. But I was struck by also like the Loftus brothers, who were sons of firemen and they're first in their family to go to college, or Casey Carroll, the great Duke player who came back after 8 years to win a national championship when serving in the Rangers. He was the son of a fireman and the first to go to college. So there is absolutely that cliche of the rich white lax bro, but there and the drinking is absolutely a big part of the game. Binge drinking, there's no question. So the image is not untrue, but there is this exception to it as well. from the Haudenosaunee, on the part of the women's game, on the part of so many people who have used the game to take a leg up in American society, get a job on Wall Street, where they, basically went from a blue collar family and elevated to the next level monetarily because of lacrosse, because of the connections in the game that make it incredibly interesting in a way and reflective of who we are as a society. The fact is, when the George Floyd racial reckoning happened, it happened across sports, but frankly, I found that it really happened in a very raw and honest and straight accounting in the sport, all the way, obviously on the collegiate level, there were podcasts and a great podcast by Matt Holman, who weekly started it during that summer, where people were coming on and having frank discussions about race and lacrosse. And at the PLL level, during that whole PLL bubble, there was a real controversy within the sport about who was going to wear the BLM patch and who wasn't. And there was real discussion and progress, and there were tough discussions and a real openness and willingness to deal with the issue of race and lacrosse. And frankly, it was less performative than I think than it was with the NBA or the NFL. I think the sport really was forced to and embraced grappling with the issue. So I feel like that reflected in many ways the discussion in the culture at large in a far more honest way than almost any other sport.
Scott, I asked this question, and I'll use this as reference. This will be the anecdotal part. For myself, for my wife, our kids are now more baseball than they are lacrosse, but they started in lacrosse. But it's in our nature, right? This is where we're from. To the point where, my wife, there's no such thing as gym shorts. If she's telling our kids to put athletic shorts on, she says lacrosse shorts. That's just what she's known the entirety of her life, because this is where we're from, and it's part of the culture here. That said, she'll always ask me, why is it like that here and not like that everywhere else? When we go to the PLL and we take the kids, she's like, why? There's 10,000 people here. Why is it like this here and not other places? So I asked this question of, when we talk about growing the game, can it get there? Will the Olympics be a game changer in that way? Or is lacrosse always going to be for the places where it's for and the people that it's for?
Well, look, the fact is that, I a big character in my book is Willie Scroggs, who really, was one of the early breakouts, taking the game down to North Carolina, a place that had no high school lacrosse at all. And North Carolina is now a hotbed of lacrosse. Florida, obviously, is, now has a Final 14 with the women. I mean, the game has spread. There are things that are going to get in the way of it spreading, to become anything, anywhere near the level of baseball, football. The fact is that it's a really expensive sport.
Yep.
And that's difficult. On the other hand, it's an incredible. There's no sport that rewards the good athlete introduced to it quicker than lacrosse. The fact is that what I found was, Hopkins at its absolute peak in the 60s, and this went on for a while. You get a great athlete who plays soccer or basketball. Johns Hopkins was winning national championships, and Joe Carlton, their first black player, was in the late 60s was a basketball player who had never played lacrosse.
Right.
And within 1 year of playing it was playing defense for a national championship team. Alabama is not going to pull someone off the basketball team and put them on a football field on their number one football team. It's just not going to happen. But lacrosse rewards a good athlete. You can get out there, and if you have proper footwork, you can survive. And in the sport, you don't have to run a 4.2 40, and you don't have to be 6'8". So the sport really rewards a good athlete, and it's not a place where you're going to deal with concussion. So I think middle-class mothers, especially the ones who don't want their kids to be playing football, if you have an aggressive, action-oriented, male or female, this is a great sport to embrace. I talked to Joe Tsai about this, who really is, essentially
basically funding the entire sport at this point.
Yeah, funding the entire sport. He's the financial angel of everything.
Yeah.
And And Joe Tsai said, look, it'll always be a niche sport. He believes, and no one's a bigger booster of the sport.
Right.
He does think it could someday be the level of hockey, because he says it just doesn't make sense. Why is hockey big in Phoenix? If hockey can be big in Phoenix, lacrosse can be, obviously a sport that can reach a certain level. And it is, similar to hockey in so many ways. So I could see that maybe, but the fact is that it is a niche sport, and frankly, that's okay. There's this weird thing in sports. I covered tennis for 28 years for Sports Illustrated and went to many Grand Slams. And the sport was constantly like, why can't we have what we had in the 70s, the tennis boom? And meanwhile, tennis is constantly trying to be as big as football or as big as basketball. Grand Slam tennis, professional tennis, has a perfectly great role in society as a sport. People pay attention to it. It's a cultural barometer. It doesn't have to be that big. Lacrosse is slowly but surely growing. I'm not sure that the Olympics will push it to a different level. We'll see. The fact is if it's a one-time sport in LA, it might cause a great spasm of interest. It certainly can't hurt. But more importantly is if it becomes an Olympic sport and continues, say, if in Adelaide 4 years after that, if it remains an Olympic sport. We'll see what happens.
The event tonight, the Enoch Pratt Free Library is hosting at the Wheeler Auditorium at the Central Library. Is this a Q&A, Scott?
It's more of a conversation with
Okay.
Steve Stennerson. Steve is as everyone I think on this podcast knows, the former head of U.S. lacrosse and one of the longtime administrators of growing the game. He had a very strong hand in developing sixes, which is the Olympic sixes, the discipline that was created essentially for the Olympics. And Steve was really one of the first people I spoke to when I went to LaxCon in 2018. And he has an incredible perspective on the sport and is one of the truly has a great critical mind about what the sport needs, what its negatives are and what its positives are. And I just found him to be an incredibly creative thinker. And he was incredibly generous with me. And I can't wait to talk with him because he's one of the sharpest minds in the game and had been, and the sport was lucky to have him.
It's tonight at 7 o'clock. You can find out more at prattlibrary.org, and we're also going to link up information about the event on our Twitter account as well, at Glenn Clark Radio, for you to find out more. Scott, the book is unbelievable. I mean, it's so incredibly thorough, and I am learning so much. And as I said, I'm still only about a third of the way through it, and I can't wait to continue to read more. Really appreciate you spending time with us this morning to talk about it, and really looking forward to finishing the book. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me, Glenn. I really appreciate it.
SL Price, and you can follow him on social at BuySLPrice is where you can find it. You can go to BuySLPrice.com, BYSLPrice.com. I'm going to put Alex on the spot.
I'm ready.
What do you make of this discussion about the growing the game versus how traditionally the game has been seen as for elites and for whites and for
the rich?
Yeah, correct. What do you make of that?
He's not wrong. I mean, if you look at like a lot of these kids, these top prospects are coming out of prep schools, private schools from Long Island, Maryland, I guess sometimes Florida, I guess now. But he's not wrong. It's a really expensive sport to play. Travel lacrosse is even more expensive.
I felt in reading the book, and you give me your honest opinion of this. In reading the book, one of the things that SL drew into was that some of the struggles haven't been that there aren't athletes from other backgrounds that are interested in playing. It's not like there aren't, black players that are interested in playing. It's that their experiences playing have been particularly negative, that they have run into racial stereotypes and name calling and very quickly things that would make them say, why would I ever tell my friend that they should play lacrosse? Because when I went and played, I was met with the ugliest of the ugly, and that has further insulated the sport in its traditional elitist white sort of background and prevented the spread of the sport to a greater populace.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, there's always going to be some bad apples, you know, and there's going to be kids that are going to be like, oh, well, like, look at us, we're all white, and look at you, you know. So,
I mean, I happen to know that the Stevenson team is not all white.
That's
I happen
true.
to know that
That's
true. Do you feel like that the players of other backgrounds on your team would say, no, I feel welcome here. I don't feel like I'm an outsider.
I would hope so. I think that we have some good relations with them. I think we have a pretty diverse class coming in next year, more diverse than I think we've had the previous years. It's just a hard thing because it is geographically, you know, it's from a lot of white areas. So
it's so interesting because obviously he dives into the book into the history of Morgan State and the 10 Bears, right?
Mhm.
Which was this incredibly successful program. People don't realize how successful. At the time, college lacrosse, like the split between Division I and Division II, is not like the split now between Division I and where we'd almost say in lacrosse Division III is the higher level than Division II. But like it wasn't like that in the 70s and 80s. Division II was where like Loyola played, and like they had great success. They were beating at Division II, Morgan State, this 10 Bears team. They were beating Notre Dame. They were beating regular power programs within lacrosse, but it just never sustained.
Mm-hmm.
It once the program went away because of budget cuts, no one really stepped in. And I know the Hampton in recent years at the Division I level has launched a program. They have struggled to find their footing, and I don't think they've still beaten the Division I team. I have to double check on that.
No, I
at
think
this
they
point.
have a win.
Do they?
Or a couple, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw
I think
somewhere.
they had wins, but I don't know if they were against Division I programs or not. I don't remember if that's the case.
I can't remember either.
They've struggled to find their footing competitively, but Lloyd Carter, whose history dates back to those Morgan State teams, said like that to us success is not about wins and losses, it's just about the existence of the program. It's about providing for black athletes the ability to say you can be involved in this sport. We want you here.
Mm-hmm.
I talked a lot about I'm involved with the next collegiate league, the NCL, the Sixes League at the HBCU level.
That's a good one.
I will acknowledge the level of competitor might not be very high. The level of competition is very high. Like the guys and girls that are out on the field are competing like hell.
Yep.
They're not going to be representing the United States in the Olympics, but when they are on the field, they care. They battle. Like they care deeply about being a part of this league, and I've loved being a part of it and getting to see it a great deal. It's very difficult, right? Because I know you love the sport.
Yeah.
I clearly love the sport. Like I love it. It is part of who I am. It's part of my identity. In my broadcast career, I'm known probably more for lacrosse than I am any of the other sports that I call. And I'm just so associated with lacrosse and that community. So I love it dearly, but I also understand the warts. And it was interesting because it did really feel like the book was about the Haudenosaunee, and that is just that alone is an incredibly compelling story. And his point of like, here, we think of like lacrosse, the sport, as being for elitists, being for, maybe more politically conservatives, like all those things. And yet this is the sport that reached out to recognize the sovereignty of the Haudenosaunee. How do you reconcile that? Like that's quite different, and it is very compelling in this conversation. The book is fascinating. I mean, it really is fascinating, and for a sport that I care about deeply, I really, it is worth the read. And I found myself glued. Like I was missing much of the basketball game last night as I was like, what's going on?
So, did you guys watch the hockey game last night?
I did not. Basketball will
kept an
always
eye
be
on it,
higher on the list than hockey for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a good
it's
game.
just
I mean,
always the way. I know it was wild, right?
Yeah, Edmonton looked like they were
They were like
controlling
running
the entire
away.
way. Yeah.
Was it 3-0 or 3-1?
3-1.
3-1.
Start of
That's
the-
right.
start of the third
And then they
period.
gave up 5 straight goals.
And it was 6-3.
It was wild, right? Hockey will forever have this problem for me. My team doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I just have a little bit less. Like, once we get to the Stanley Cup Finals and they're not playing on the same nights as the NBA, I will flip over after. But, like, the NBA is still going to be a bit above the NHL.
I'll say I never was a fan of hockey until I moved to Virginia because Atlanta didn't have a team. They had the Fire, but I was so young.
When did
the Atlanta Fire?
No, the team that the what was that?
The Caps?
No, the team.
What were they called?
My God, what the hell were they called? The Knights? Is that what they were called?
No. I keep wanting to say, well, it wasn't Whalers, obviously. It was.
No, it was Hartford.
Yeah, but it was something.
Oh my God,
funky,
the Thrashers. Thank you.
Atlanta Thrashers.
When did the Thrashers move?
Oh, let me check that for you.
I genuinely don't. 2011 is when they moved. God, I didn't realize it had been that long. Holy smokes! Because I remember when the Atlanta Thrashers were in trouble, that was the start of when the Coyotes were in trouble. And everybody was like, they're both going to move. And then the Coyotes lasted another 13 years before they ultimately moved. But like a lot of people thought once they moved the Thrashers, they were like, well, now the Coyotes are going to be safe because the NHL wasn't going to lose 2 major markets. It really is a black eye for the business end of the NHL that you lose 2 of the 10 major most significant markets in the country when you're again, the grow the game concept. Now, that doesn't mean that Winnipeg isn't a better hockey market. It almost certainly is a better hockey market. I don't know if Salt Lake City's a better hockey market than I understand from a weather concept. You're like, well, it has to be a better hockey market than Phoenix, right? I don't
hockey weather.
I don't know that. I have no idea. I don't know if hockey is in the blood of people in Utah. I don't know enough about Utah to know that. Like they don't have is the University of Utah even a Division I?
I doubt it.
Ironically, Arizona State's become like this this hockey power in recent years. Like they beat Denver a few times this year. It was a big story. But I don't even know if like the University of Utah, if there's a strong college pipeline or high school pipeline.
Apparently, actually, I don't have anything yet.
Okay, very good. I have no idea if it's a good market or not for hockey. But it's definitely not as good of a.
Apparently, the Utes are D1.
They are D1?
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't know of them to be a powerful D1. I don't know of them to be a D1 that's been regularly competitive. A lot was made in recent years about how the Coyotes begat this, like, weird hockey. It's so funny, SL Price bringing it up, that, like, Joe Tsai says, why would Arizona love hockey and not love. And somebody would say, well, Arizona didn't love hockey, right? You see what happened to the Coyotes? Well, the weird part is that, like, Austin Matthews exists. The Coyotes begat Austin Matthews. The Kachucks, right? Like, now part of that is that their dad played in Arizona, so that's a little bit different. But, like, it began this sort of, like, hockey community that was created in Phoenix because of there being a pro franchise there. So I don't know which one is the better hockey market is a long way of going. But, yes, embarrassing for the league that they lost both Atlanta and Phoenix, which were huge American media markets, and they've lost both of those in the last 15 years in favor of a very small American market and a very small Canadian market. So it's what it is. But, yeah, wild game. I
think that Utah is the club. That ACHA.
Okay, so ACHA. Okay.
I think Stevenson's got because there's so many divisions in the club.
Yeah.
Hockey.
All right.
Is that?
I'm pretty sure.
There is so much hockey. The hockey is like.
It is
a lot of
but
clubs.
like, yeah, I mean, I guess it would make more sense. But they're playing Colorado and they're playing Oregon.
Well, I don't think those are. No, I think that's right. Did they play Denver's like an actual Division I hockey program?
Yes.
Did they play them
in Boston?
They did not play Boston.
Yeah, like
they did not play Denver.
Like those are the type. Bemidji State is like a hockey power. Colorado College, not the University of Colorado. Colorado College, St. Cloud. Like those are hockey. To your point, BU 100% is like a hockey power. BC, I think, is
Michigan.
Too. Yeah, Michigan's definitely a hockey power. I don't know, man. We're talking about something we don't know about. We have no idea what we're talking about.
Enough, unfortunately.
Come back in.
And they got they got a promotional schedule. Like they're doing autographs with the team.
All right.
I don't know, man. I can't speak to this.
Neither can I.
All right. When we come back in, we'll get a tidbit. We'll get
Did you hear the Korean call of Tyrese Halliburton's shot?
No. You want to share that?
We'll
come back in. We'll hear the Korean call of Tyrese Halliburton's shot. We'll get a tidbit and we'll get two-bit or wind things down for a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Feeling sluggish, unfocused, or not like yourself? It could be low testosterone. At Game Day Men's Health, we specialize in testosterone replacement therapy to help men boost energy, improve mood, and regain confidence. Our treatments, including testosterone cypionate, are safe, natural, and tailored to fit your lifestyle with weekly injections or pellet therapy. Get started today with a free testosterone test and feel the difference. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Game Day Men's Health, where men reclaim their game.
What makes the Costas Inn so special? This is Stan the Fan telling you that it's the people that work for you, cooking and serving. But that menu is also special with a capital S. Soups, salads, the raw bar, pasta dishes, seafood specialties, and entrees like the Costas combos, steaks, chops, ribs, amazingly delicious meatloaf, and all manner of delicious spilling sandwiches, including pit beef and turkey and subs. Of course, the steamed crabs are as good as you can get anywhere, and they serve them 12 months a year. The crab cakes are out of this world. Costas is open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner at 4100 North Point Boulevard, and coming soon, very soon, Costas in Timonium at the OTB Parlor at Timonium Racecourse. We'll get you the opening date real soon.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the long road back from Tommy John surgery for Orioles closer Felix Bautista, as well as Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells. Also inside, we learn more about new Maryland basketball coach Buzz Williams from the players who have played for him at other stops. Plus, evaluators around baseball chime in on Orioles' top prospect Samuel Basayo. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. Yeah, we just did the math. Utah not D1 hockey. They are club hockey.
Like I said, they're
the
not
whole
D1
time.
hockey.
Yeah, definitely not Division I hockey. That is the answer. Two, our always frenemy, Rob Shields, doesn't understand why the media is so obsessed with the idea that Mike Elias owed that to them to talk to him. Well, again, this is the way that this works. And I appreciate exactly how Chelsea said it, which is like, this isn't personal for me. This is, he needs to speak to someone. And this is the way that the Fourth Estate is supposed to work. Now, I get it. As I've said a million times before, there is an amount of importance that's placed on sports media that I don't think actually exists. Like, the sports teams are not the government. Like, we do not need town halls constantly to answer to the people that you represent. But a good organization should constantly want to do that. To say, we are transparent. It's not, like, Rob, I love you, but you're a blowhard, and you know that. Like, you know you are. You just think you're right about everything, and that's the way that this works.
Every now and then, you know.
It's not like Rob's never been right. He's been right, I think. I'm sure. But, like, he's just the type of person that believes he's right about everything. And I in a weird way, I've grown this, like, affinity for Rob, who constantly wants to fight. But this is the way the concept is supposed to be, that we can't meet with everyone. That's not possible. We can't put the entire Orioles fan base in any structure and say, you all fire away at your questions. So the idea is supposed to be much like, the idea of government is that these are people that we chose to represent us. The idea is supposed to be that the media is a representation of the public. We're going to ask the questions because it's what the public would want asked. Does it always work out that way? Believe it or not, no. Believe it or not, the government doesn't always represent the interests of the people. I know you're going to – no.
Those tariffs aren't helping?
I mean, I don't know. We'll get there. I don't know. But, like, believe it or not, the government doesn't bat 1,000 either, right? Like, I understand that there are people that are anti-media because – whatever. There are always going to be examples of people that go into business for themselves and not really for the people that they're supposed to be asking questions for. I understand that. But that's the way that this works. That's the concept. And, yes, Mike Elias, anyone involved in the Orioles should want to. We just made a significant decision. We don't want to make it seem like we're hiding or that we're we believe we've made the right decision. And because of that, we are comfortable going in front of the largest possible group of reporters. The other idea is that these are supposed to be people that are screened by the club, that are given access because we are actually professionals. That's the way this is all supposed to work, acknowledging it doesn't always work that way. I understand. The number of times that you hear a question in a press conference, you're like, what the F was that? Who is that person? I get it. It happens. But that's the concept. We think we did the right thing. We're confident in our decisions, so we are confident in going and talking to the people that are supposed to be representing the public in that way and answering questions. I don't, as you know, I don't typically go to these things anymore. Because they're performative. Like, you're not really getting answers. You're getting what they want you to think the answers are. As was pointed out in Mike Elias's gaggle, hey, what happened between when you were literally doing a podcast tour 2 weeks ago and telling everybody that Brandon Hyde's job is safe to now? And Mike Elias, without saying the words, kind of led on to the idea that, like, I knew his job wasn't safe. But you can't publicly say,
we're getting pretty close.
Yeah, we think we're going to fire him tomorrow. Then you have to fire him that day. Like, you have to project that if the person is the manager of the team, or in Mike Elias' case, the head coach, if you have to project that you have faith in that person. So it is performative, and we all know that it's performative sometimes. I don't think Chelsea Janes is personally offended by it. As she pointed out, yes, her job that day, because she's based out of Washington and doesn't travel with the Orioles, her job was to go to Baltimore to write a story for the Washington Post, which, however you feel about it, is still a fairly significant media outlet, about the Orioles firing of Brandon Hyde. And by Mike Elias not making himself available, she then, in order to write the story, had to turn to the players. And the point of it's not fair for the players to have to be the ones answering the questions about a decision they had nothing to do with. That's true, too. It's not about Chelsea Janes or Buster Olney or Tim Kurkjian or anybody else who brings it up. It's that it isn't fair. Now, some of the players probably don't care, right? Like, they're probably like, I don't know, dude, whatever.
Play a baseball game every single day.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. They fired the manager. My life goes on. Other guys probably were bothered by it. Like, dude, I love this guy. Like, that when you read that there were guys that were legitimately crying, that's real. You're shook. You guys have both had coaches that you loved, right? And if you found out the next day that they were fired, you'd be emotional about it. Now, I got to answer the questions about it, and you won't? Yeah, that's a problem. And from the same general manager that had the gall to suggest that his team couldn't compete while they were in the throes of competing a few years ago, it's fair to bring up. Yes, it's fair game. And no matter how much, and Rob's the type that, like, Rob thinks that every contract that's not long-term is a good contract. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter that Charlie Morton stinks because he's not on the books for next year. Like, we can just do this forever. Again, as long as you're only giving away, never be good, just be good, be bad in small doses, right? Like, sure, if next year you give away a bunch of bad one-year contracts, they're just one-year contracts.
Problem is, we're accustomed to this team being bad in big doses.
No, that's true, too. I understand that. What I'm saying is, like, Rob is more on the lines of, like, Mike Elias knows what he's doing. And so if it's critical towards Mike Elias, it becomes difficult. You don't get to hide behind, yeah, they're bad, but they're bad and not dug in deep. Like, yes, the Chris Davis thing was more harmful to the Orioles than Charlie Morton is. No question about it, but it doesn't change the reality. You know, it's true in both cases. The team's not good. To say, yeah, but they might be good next year, right, but how are they going to get there? Probably by doing the things that we wanted to see them do last year, which is sign real baseball players, not Charlie Morton. You can't – this thing where we say there's no such thing as a bad one-year contract, which we say kind of breathlessly, to an extent, there's a truthfulness to it, which is that there's only so much damage that a bad one-year contract can do. But it changes not the fact that Charlie Morton's a bad one-year contract, unless something, unless his stint in the bullpen changes him. I don't know. I was all over the place on that one. Sorry. Get a tidbit? You want to do that?
Yeah, do you want to hear the South
Korea?
Korea?
You want to do the Korean thing. Yeah. This is the Tyrese Halliburton shot. Correct. The one that we thought was the game winner, only quickly to realize it wasn't the game winner.
The game winner, right?
I understand, but, like, dude, there was going to be – the internet was going to have a field day of him doing the choke thing if they had turned around and lost him. Like, dude, the mockery that dude was going to face.
And then I think he talked about it afterwards, and he's upset he wasted it on that. He thought he had him, and he was like, "Well, I can't do it again now."
Fortunate that they ended up winning because he would never. That would go with him eternally. It would become a signal of
unless they win the series, right? I mean,
yeah, maybe. But if they had lost that game, that stays with Tyrese Halliburton. Anyway, this is the Korean call you said.
Correct.
할리버튼 5초, 할리버튼 갑니다. 4초, 3초, 2점을 노리나요? 자, 빠져나가면서 할리버튼 쏩니다. 이게 뭐야? 이게 뭡니까? 할리버튼의 초크 세레머니까지. 할리버튼 5초.
I have no idea, but it does sound fun. No doubt about that. It definitely sounds fun. I think last night was like the anniversary of the Kawhi Leonard shot to beat the Sixers. Yes. The same thing where it hung on the rim. That one actually bounced.
Yeah, because that one bounced
the
8
one,
times.
The one from the corner in Game 7 that won the series against Philadelphia. I think last night was the anniversary of that game. And so people were sharing it on social, particularly in the aftermath of Tyrese Halliburton's shot bouncing high off the rim. And the immediate response from, I don't know who was calling the game, but it was the exact 3 people in unison. Oh! Like, that's all the call was.
Oh!
And all 3 of them, like, they're singing. Like, they're singing in harmony. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful call. All right. Tidbit is brought to you today by the print issue of Pressbox, which is available for free wherever you find Pressbox around town, including your neighborhood Royal Farms. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Luke Jackson's cover story about the hard road back from Tommy John surgery. Still working their way back in one case. 2 cases. Well, maybe in all 3 cases because Felix Bautista, it ain't been great
It's part of the progression, they said.
All right. Go pick it up for free right now.
I'm sure there's been several different stats thrown out there about, teams leading by X points with X number of minutes left in games, in playoffs, and, all-time whatever. The big one I think that everyone's almost probably seen by now, though, but it is the best one. From Josh Dubow of the AP, the Knicks led by 14 with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Teams leading a playoff game going back to 1997 by 14
I saw this
in the final 2 minutes and 45 seconds of the fourth quarter, 994 and 0 since 97.
Wild.
Before last night. Now 994 and 1 as the Pacers did complete the comeback. Almost won in regulation, a couple inches away from winning in regulation, and then did hold them off in overtime. Adley did have the big the 3-point home run in yesterday's extra inning game. It was the first home run hitting extra innings by an Orioles catcher since May of 2017. First extra inning home run hit by an Orioles catcher.
Would that still have been Wieters?
Would he have still been? He might have still been here, but it was not Matt Wieters.
He was.
Did he leave in 2016?
Maybe.
Or did he leave after 16?
I would have thought that he would have still been on the. Why would he have been gone before then?
I don't know.
I guess
Was that
maybe
just
it's
when his
2016.
contract
Yeah,
was
that
up,
might have
or-
been it. All right.
Yeah.
So
all
is
right.
that
2016 was his last year? He was.
Is that Caleb Joseph?
It was not Caleb Joseph.
Is it Beef Wellington?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes,
Okay.
it was Beef Wellington Castillo.
Okay.
Extra inning home run against the Toronto Blue
If
Jays.
it wasn't him, I was really going to be like a Sweet Jesus, like the whole. We would have been really diving deep. Chance Cisco.
Taylor Teagard, I guess this would have been after too.
Who was the other guy? Wins? Did he
yeah,
ever?
Austin Wins.
Yeah,
Well, I
like,
mean, we just saw him. He had a
That's
70
right,
day
yeah.
with the Reds.
diving deep at some point.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins MVP.
Is it? I thought is it Shy or is it Shea?
Shea.
I think
what
it's
did I
Shea,
settle on?
isn't it?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yeah, Shea, SGA. Becomes the first Kentucky Wildcat to win NBA MVP.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
I am stunned by that.
First Kentucky Wildcat to win MVP in the NBA.
I mean, I guess Anthony Davis hasn't been an MVP.
Do we have a problem with the way the NBA awards get announced? Like,
What do you mean?
I mean, it's just a tweet. Sham shares a
That's
tweet at 3 p.m.
that's
in the
how it should
afternoon.
be. What? Imagine watching
like
a
having the
television
NFL
show.
awards and-
No, I'll never watch in my life.
Well, then
it's
you're
a
sad
it's a
life.
tweet. No.
Well, Lamar was supposed to win a third one.
Yeah, you can watch the NFL honors. God,
It has been 7 straight years now that an international player.
I did see that because
darn it.
obviously Jokic.
Darn it. I was going to say, okay, well, up until, so since 2019, it's been all international guys. Before that, only 3 different international players have won NBA MVP.
Before 2019.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Well, Steve Nash.
Steve Nash won it twice. Back-to-back years.
Did Dirk win MVP? Yeah, Dirk.
What do you think, Alex?
Huh?
Is that what it says,
Dirk, yes,
Barry?
Dirk did
I
win.
mean, why did you look at him?
I just wanted to
Like,
make you second guess.
what the hell is that?
Keep getting you to second guess yourself. Yes, Dirk won it. So, yeah, it was 3 straight years. Nash in, what was that, 06? Yeah, 6, 7, and then Dirk in 08.
Who's the other one?
Or, sorry, Dirk in 07.
And
Nash in 06.
this doesn't count, like, wasn't technically Kobe born outside of the United States, but
Was he? It does not.
because wasn't he was a military?
Oh, he was an army.
Or no, I
or
mean,
mil-
no, not a
military.
military brat. His father was playing basketball in Europe.
Gotcha. It does not count Kobe.
And he might have been born in.
Says he's born in Philly.
Okay. Then he just lived in Europe when he was young because his father, Joe Bryant, was a European basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
How about? This is good. And it doesn't. I assume this doesn't count Tim Duncan, who was born in like the Virgin Islands, right?
It does not count Tim Duncan.
Man. I'm really struggling with this. Is it it's before the century, right?
Correct. It is before 2000.
I don't. It's like I'm going through, like Drazen Petrovic never won MVP, and Arvydas Sabonis never won MVP, and I guess Hakeem Olajuwon.
Hakeem Olajuwon, 1994.
I was not certain if he had won MVP or
By
not.
way of Nigeria, Hakeem
Wow.
Olajuwon, the first international NBA MVP ever, 1994. Hakeem Olajuwon.
How about that?
And I did say the last 7 MVPs. So that include Joel Embiid, who because he played on Team USA in the Olympics this past year.
yeah.
But he's Cameroonian, so
Yeah.
that counts as international, I guess. Or at
Well,
least at the time
they're
it
saying
did.
where you're born is where
Yeah.
this is like where you were born, and he was born in Cameroon, but is a United States citizen. So I think technically he could have chosen to play for either, but go figure why he might have chosen Team USA over Cameroon.
You don't want to put Cameroon on the map.
Go figure. Go figure. All right, let's get tubular.
Okay, everybody, it's going to be quick today.
What was the main focus today, Coach?
Fundamentals, ball control. It's always huge.
Any early thoughts on the competition this year?
Well, look, this is the best of the best players in the world. It's going to be an amazing tournament.
Tournament?
Yeah, the BMW Championship at Cays Valley. What are you guys talking about? All they ever ask me about is football.
Here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. If they can play, then Orioles Red Sox 6:45 would be on Masson with Cade Povich taking on Lucas Giolito. It will also be on MLB Network and the rest of the country. Presuming they're not going to play, you'll be able to focus on basketball and hockey. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Timberwolves and Thunder, 8:30 on ESPN and ESPN News. Game 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals in the NHL, Panthers-Hurricanes, 8 o'clock on TNT and True TV. Other baseball, Masson 2, Braves-Nationals, 6:45. It's also the free game on MLB TV. MLB Network for Rangers-Yankees at 12:35. Guardians-Tigers at 6:40 locally, and I assume that becomes the national game if the Orioles game is rained out. Amazon Prime Video, Indiana Fever, Atlanta Dream at 7:30. Round 1 of the Senior PGA Championship. They're playing that this year down at Congressional in Bethesda. So you can go check that out this weekend. 1 o'clock for round 1 of the Golf Channel, then 4 o'clock for round 1 of the Charles Schwab Challenge. Access TV for TNA Impact tonight at 8. Non-sports.
Yeah, we got several. Paul Giamatti will be on Stephen Colbert.
But that's only, we always have to have multiple people.
Audra McDonald, I don't know if you care about her or know who she
is also on Colbert.
Yes.
They are plugging S.L. Price's book.
Oh, really? That's nice of them.
Yeah,
that's cool.
very
Big lacrosse
about.
fans.
Yeah,
Paul Giamatti. And
well, they want to deal
Audra
with
McDonald
like some of the warts. Lacrosse. They want to help improve it.
Fallon's got a big show tonight. It's gonna be Haley Atwell and Shaquille O'Neal. You don't know who Haley Atwell is? She was Agent Peggy Carter.
Oh, that's Haley Atwell?
Yeah. She's also in Mission Impossible.
Oh, well, yeah, but obviously she's on tonight to talk about the Brett Favre, the Untold.
With Shaq.
Yeah, with Shaq, 100%.
Those two doing a media
That's what they're plugging.
together.
Yeah, they're plugging Untold. Brett Favre.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know a big one for you, probably for Alex as well. It's the season 3 finale of Farmer Wants a Wife.
Ah, hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah.
Who you guys got?
You think now?
Who do I
You said this is season 3 of Farmer Wants a Wife?
Yeah.
So he's been through 2 seasons. He hasn't found a wife yet?
No, I think they find different farmers.
Starting to think that maybe this farmer doesn't really want a wife.
I'm hoping Farmer Tom ends up with Emmy Rose. That's just...
Oh, you've been watching?
Yeah.
You've been diving in on Farmer Wants a Wife? Okay.
Welcome to Wrexham, new episode of that. Hacks, new episode of that.
Do love those shows.
This is the penultimate week of Hacks.
Is it?
At least for this season.
And I said this season is
Really?
I
thought. I mean,
you only watch because I watch it on Fridays.
I didn't watch the first 3 seasons. I don't mind the show.
It's fine.
I like it.
This season is fine. I don't think it's as good as some of the other seasons.
Another big one, season 2 of The Secret Lives of
You know
Mormon
what? You know what? Also, part of the problem is, she's doing the Jimmy Fallon show. Like it's.
Oh, you hate Fallon? I forgot.
I just hate what late night television has become, and so like that's the show she's doing on this season of Hacks, and you're like, ugh.
Well, she's kind of doing. I think maybe isn't that the commentary? Is that she has to do?
But like
what sells or
she's
what the
doing it,
want.
and like you like the character because she was like the anti-establishment. Like that was part of what you liked about her. Like the Joan Rivers, like the really cool like comic that would give everybody the middle finger and all that. And this is way less cool.
Netflix has a new show called Sirens that comes out today. Megan Fahey and Millie Alcock and Julianne Moore are all in this.
I love Julianne. But I bet Julianne Moore probably still looks amazing.
She does.
She's probably 60 at this point.
So Megan Fahey and Millie Alcock are sisters, and Millie is like her younger sister, and she's like Julianne Moore she's like rich, and she's got Millie under her she as her assistant, like this under almost like this cult-like thing where like she follows her. Glenn Howerton's in it, so is Kevin Bacon. It looks really good.
All right.
It looks very good. I'm not doing a good job of like explaining what it is.
No, but that's okay. It's Julianne Moore, so I'm willing to look.
Yes, there's like I'm not exactly sure what the exact premise is, but it's a star-studded cast, and it looks pretty well done. So that's on Netflix. I know you're excited for this one. New series on Prime Video, Earnhardt. Diving into the story, the life of the Earnhardts.
You know what's really funny is like obviously I don't care at all about NASCAR, but like I think we forget it won't register with you guys at all because of your age. Dale Earnhardt died in the final lap of the Daytona 500. Like it's so unfathomable to think about a comparison for that. Like when we thought Damar Hamlin was in danger.
There was a wreck.
He died in a crash on the final lap of the Daytona 500, the biggest race of the year. He died in the final lap trying to protect his teammate Michael Waltrip winning the race. Now, I don't care about NASCAR, like it's not my thing, but I can't come up with he was the biggest star in the sport. Like the comparable is like Patrick Mahomes perishing in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think that you really understand how truly insane that moment was in American history, even for people that didn't care at all about NASCAR. Like, it's really unbelievable. I remember the day vividly. Maryland had
what year was it?
It was 2001. Okay. I was not only a senior in high school, but the girl that I was dating, her cousin opened a NASCAR store in the Hartford Mall. And the Hartford Mall, you would think, was a perfect place for a NASCAR store. It was not. And I was a senior in high school. I lived nowhere near Bel Air, but I was dating his cousin, and he was like, hey, I'll pay you like this amount of money to come run the store after school every day. And like it was for a senior in high school. I was like, what? You're going to pay me what now? And so I did. I was like, yeah, hell yeah. I'm in, brother. You got it. And I went every day, drove from Baltimore County up to Bel Air to run this NASCAR store that never sold anything. And I think I found out later it was like a front. Like it was, they were washing money in there. Like, but they never sold anything to wash any money. Like it was very weird. But when Dale Earnhardt passed away, like people came to the NASCAR store at the mall and left flowers. Jeez. Like he was an iconoclast in a weird way. Like I don't know how to explain it. There are still, like somebody would say it's rednecks, but it's not just, it's like there are people that still have this like raise hell, praise Dale, like tattoos that don't know it. Like it's just become sort of part of culture over the years. So while you're right, I'm not into NASCAR. I actually am. I'm not saying I'm gonna watch, but there's
sold me on this. So.
There's a chance I would watch this series, and obviously, like his son Dale Jr. had just started racing, like right before this happened. His son was running in the race and running just behind where his father died. Like it's really an unbelievable like story. It's wild, man.
They announced the season 2 of Tires as well is coming.
Oh, when's that?
Start of June 5th, actually.
All right.
New trailer just dropped.
It's not as funny as the Shane Gillis people. Like the people that love Shane Gillis,
I liked it.
It was fun. It was very watchable. But the people that just want to,
it watchable.
It's very watchable.
It's life changing.
It's not. That's where you're wrong. It's pretty dumb, but like funny dumb. It's not Detroiters. It's not a great like comedy.
Yeah, I mean I appreciate the the southern PA, south.
Oh, that like aspect. Yeah, sure. I'll give you that. But it was. I will watch it. I'm not saying I won't watch season 2 of Tires. It's just that like people have become such weirdos about Shane Gillis that like everything he does is brilliant. I'm like, Shane Gillis is funny, but like he's funny.
They're calling him the next Norm.
No. No. I mean, I'll still do the when he was on the second SNL kind of stunk. Like he wasn't very good, but the first time he hosted SNL. That Jamaican sketch is one of the greatest sketches in the history of the program. I want to hear the good word. That S is funny, man. All right. Thanks today to SL Price. Thanks Tim Kurkjian. Thanks to Chelsea Janes. We'll get all that up in the greatest hit section of the
Let's go, Max. You're the best wrestler alive. Let's go, Max. You're the best wrestler alive.
Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, anything?
Yeah, I just had, so I forget, we were talking about D1 hockey, so I forgot to confirm the time that it would work for you, but yes, we will have.
Okay.
I just want to confirm.
Awkward.
I'll wait before we say it to confirm.
All right.
Yeah, we have a guest.
Okay, a guest. Stan in tomorrow?
Yeah,
Stan's back tomorrow. All right, stuff and things. And a guest. Maybe.
No, not maybe. I think we'll have. I think we will have at least one.
All right. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox.
If not, we can do MMA hour with
with
right.
Alex. Somebody else gets a shot at it. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Game Day Men's Health, Live Casino and Hotel, the BMW Championship Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Baltimore's Classic 5 Golf Courses, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costas Inn, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us on Twitter. Oh, Alex, remind me.
Alex Wilson _.
Give him a follow there. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. If they play, sure, go Birds. Well, we said yesterday we didn't say go Birds, and they won. So who cares?
Yeah.
Duke sucks.